Welcome to HOJO Radio.
Dentists know what cleans teeth best. And over 4,000 dentists say Colgate tooth powder with a 2-minute routine gets teeth sparkling and super clean. So to remove dull film and get your teeth shining clean, just brush teeth 2 minutes morning and night with Colgate tooth powder. Brush inside, outside, and biting surface.
DuPont presents the Cavalcade of America. Certain of the letters received by DuPont, sponsors of the Cavalcade of America, have special qualities of interest which will appeal to other radio listeners. Such a letter is this one, received recently, and written by a member of that famous organization of actors, dramatists, and composers, the Lambs in New York City.
I beg to thank you for the Cavalcade program. They are delightful. Last night's program brought tears to my eyes, happiness to my heart, and gratitude to you. I've spent my life in the dramatic profession, on the stage, in pictures, and in radio. I'm 70 years of age. Recently, my hearing has become impaired. But I can hear the radio, and I want to tell you how much I enjoy your program. Thank you again.
Such a tribute repays every member of our cast for the effort put into this entertainment. It is appreciated, too, by the DuPont Company, who sponsor these programs to spread wider knowledge of their service and their pledge. Better things for better living through chemistry. The DuPont Cavalcade Orchestra plays an overture based on some of the original themes used during the broadcasts of the Cavalcade of America, composed and arranged by our musical director, Harold Levy. the cavalcade of America, the instinct for self-preservation finds expression in the slogan, safety first, or as Poor Richard puts it, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. In December 1733, Benjamin Franklin, creator of Poor Richard, published an article on fires and how to extinguish them. He deplored the fact that the city had no fire company. True, Philadelphia had then 3 hand-pumping engines placed about the city with nearly 300 leather buckets and a score of hooks for tearing down burning buildings. But there was no trained or organized group of men. The state of unpreparedness against fire continues until the year 1736, a street in Philadelphia.
What's the matter? What are they ringing the church bells for?
Well, I don't know. Perhaps it's fire. Look. There's smoke down by the river.
Oh, Lord, protect us. I wonder whose place it is.
Here comes a boy on the run. I'll ask him. Hey, boy.
What?
Where's the fire?
Down in front of our little houses on Front Street above the cooperative. Where's the bucket?
I don't know.
Nobody knows. Get buckets in a ladder.
There must be some buckets near the market. I'll go there first. Get the hook, somebody, and pull down that house. Well, you can't do that. It hasn't caught yet. You've got to wait and see if it burns. You want to see the whole town burning? Get some hooks there. Where are the hooks? Who's got more buckets? We can't keep water in the pump. Here's someone coming with buckets now. Benjamin Franklin. Here's some buckets I brought from the courthouse. Oh, thanks, Mr. Franklin. There's more there. Here, you boys. Run back and get the rest. Now, all you men, make one line from here to the river. One line, that's right. You women and boys make another line. The men pass the buckets full of water to the pumping engine. Women pass the empties back to the river. You men there, tear down that next house. But, Mr. Franklin, it isn't burning yet. Well, if you don't tear it down, it'll catch fire any minute and toll the whole city. Tear it down. On whose authority? In the interest of the city. Here, boy. Get all your friends to form another line to the river. One more bucket brigade, and we'll give this fire a good fight. This narrow escape opened the eyes of the people to the danger of their unpreparedness. And when, soon afterwards, Franklin began to organize the Union Fire Company for mutual assistance in case of fire, scores of men were eager to join him. But not satisfied with this precaution, Franklin took the next step and organized what is today the oldest fire insurance company in America. In April 1752, a group of distinguished and public-spirited citizens meet in the courthouse in Philadelphia to sign Articles of Association. Franklin is presiding.
Governor Hamilton, as representative of the proprietors of the province, your name should be first on this list.
Very well, Mr. Franklin. If you'll put yours immediately under it.
Gladly, sir. May I trouble you for the stand, Mr. Finch? We want no blot on our record.
Here you are, Mr. Franklin.
Thank you. Will you sign next?
Certainly.
Step up in turn, gentlemen. If the quill breaks, you will find a penknife in the drawer.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin.
The Philadelphia Contribution Ship for the Insurance of Houses from Loss by Fire. That's a pretty long title.
We've already shortened it. We call it the Hand in Hand.
The Hand in Hand?
Yes, from the emblem. Here is a drawing of it. 4 hands clasped in Lady to London fashion.
Very nice.
Each hand seizes the next man's wrist. That's the strongest grip possible. It's almost unbreakable. One of these emblems will be put in full view on every house we insure. And then in case of fire, everyone will know it's under our protection.
How will that reduce losses?
We'll employ watchmen and patrol. That'll discourage looting houses in the excitement of fire. And our volunteer firefighters will know we contribute to their company.
Franklin, you have the most prudent head in the colony. Pray let me have one of these emblems for my house.
We'll send you the first one.
The hand-in-hand emblem was cast in the same factory where, a few months later, they recast the Liberty Bell. Until 1783, the contribution ship was alone in its field. But in that year, a fire was carried from one house to another by means of a burning tree. And several directors decided they would have to ask an extra premium for any house with a tree growing near it. Some other directors did not agree with this principle. It is discussed at a meeting of the directors.
Oh, the whole thing. Gentlemen, it is perfectly evident that a tree close to a house is an added fire hazard. Therefore, we ought, in fairness, put an additional premium on all such policies.
It's also perfectly evident, sir, that our streets are lined with fine shade trees. That many of our best houses stand in beautiful groves of trees. I see no reason why we should penalize properties that adorn our fair city.
It is not a matter of penalty, but of risk. Let us put it to a vote. All in favor of a new policy?
Aye.
Contrary-minded?
No.
The majority stands with me in this business.
Then, sir, some of us shall withdraw and make it our business to insure houses with trees around them.
This minority formed the Mutual Assurance Company for the insurance of houses from loss by fire and adopted for their emblem a green tree. It is called the green tree to this day. For the next 100 years, very little progress was made in protecting property against loss from fire. Hydrants were placed along the streets, and hand-pumping engines were used by the volunteers. But these volunteers were not the efficient firefighters that are found in many of our towns today. Here is an example of firefighting in 1852 in a small eastern city before the volunteers had become organized as they are now.
Fire! Fire!
Where?
There, in my house.
Where's your fire bucket?
I forgot it.
Well, I'll get mine. It's in the hall where it belongs. You tell the volunteers where to go. Hurry.
I will. Fire!
There's the fire, mister. There, the smoke's coming out. Go get your bucket.
I don't live around here.
Well, there's no use trying to use that barrel. Nobody could lift that full of water.
I don't want anyone to
Well,
lift
then
it.
put it down and come and help me with the bucket.
You go get your own bucket. I'll stay here with this barrel. I got a use for it.
This way, boys. Here's the house. All right, with the first sunshine here. I guess nobody gets ahead of the Hibernian boys. Where's the water hydrant? Now, scatter, boys. Look for the hydrant. Be quick about it. Here comes the friendship laddies with their linen hose.
Hey, mister, have you seen a water hydrant around here? Can't see one, no more than you can.
Well, don't sit there gaping. We gotta have water. Get off that barrel. Help us look for it.
Can't. I got a bad leg.
That's too bad, but there must be water somewhere around here. If we don't find it ahead of those friendship boys, they'll hook into one first.
Come on, boys.
Here they come now.
Hello, Hibernia. What's the matter? Afraid of a little fire? It won't burn you, boys. You're too green.
We'll take that back, friendship, as soon as we find the water.
Why, where's your eyes? There's plenty of water right here. All right, laddies, swing the cart this way. Here's the hydrant.
Where's the hydrant? I don't see none.
All right, Jack. You can take that barrel off the hydrant now.
All right, Joe.
Friendship boys are all here. There's the hydrant, laddies.
Hey, boys! Here's the hydrant. They hid it under a barrel.
Stand back, Hibernia. This is our water. We're putting out this fire.
Oh, no. We got here first. We're putting the fire out.
What with?
With water from that hydrant.
We got to hitch up to it first.
We will. Come on, laddies. Sail the boat.
Sail the boat. It's our fire.
Stop it, you fool! The fire's gaining. You want to burn down the whole block?
It's no use, lady. They won't stop now till one side wins.
Then suddenly came one of those milestones that marked the progress of the onward march of the Cavalcade of America. On New Year's Day in 1853, a crowd of people have gathered in front of the shops of John H. McGowan in Cincinnati, Ohio, where for months they have been building the first practical steam fire engine for its inventor, Alexander B. Latta.
Well, there she is, Mr. Latta, and she's a beauty.
Yes, you've done a good job, McGowan. If it passes the test.
We'll try it as soon as we get up more steam.
Good.
Oh, Mama, let's get nearer. I can't see.
All right. Would you mind letting my little boy through? He can't see over your head.
Of course.
Thank you.
There you are.
You are, Johnny. Come on. Thank you very much. Here we are, son.
It's thick, isn't it? And shiny.
And that's Mr. Latta, the man who made it.
I want to ask him about it.
No, Johnny, come here.
Are you Mr. Latta?
Why, yes, son.
Did you make that engine all by yourself?
Well, not exactly. It took my friend McGowan here and his whole shop about 9 months. All I really did was plan it.
But how can it put out fires? Does it eat them?
Oh, no, son, no.
That firebox there is just to get up steam pressure. Then it pumps water on the fire in a steady stream. 6 streams almost 2 inches thick. And water puts out fire, you know.
Steam's up now, Mr. Latta. We're ready for the test.
That's fine. Is Mr. Greenwood here yet?
Right here, Latta, and I hope this brass monster of yours isn't just another hoax.
I hope not, sir.
There isn't much pressure in the city water pipes here, you know.
All the better, sir. We've marked off the street so you can see how far the engine will throw the water from the hose.
I doubt if it throws all 6 of them very far at one time.
It ought to throw them over 200 feet.
If it does, I'll see that the city adopts your engine, even if we have to have a fire next election to do it.
The hose is all connected, Mr. Latta. Will you turn on the hydrant? I'll go down the street and check the distance.
You turn on the water, Mr. Greenwood.
Oh, no, that honor must be yours as the inventor.
Thank you, sir. Everyone out of the way, please.
Stand back there.
Step to one side. Stand by, men.
All right.
Better get 2 on each nozzle and brace yourself.
You're optimistic, Latta.
Well, so no. There we are. All right. Let her go.
Why, look at that. That's amazing. By George, Latta, that's a sight. Congratulations.
I can't see how far the stream's carried.
It's all of 200 feet. 240 feet!
So Cincinnati had the first practical steam fire engine. And exactly 3 months later, also through the far-sighted civic efforts of Miles Greenwood, Cincinnati had the first department in America whose members were paid regular salaries. The Cavalcade of America, presented by DuPont, moves on. American cities grew in size, but not in safety. Fire buckets were common equipment in public buildings and homes. Until, in 1905, a great invention based on chemistry brought safety a step nearer. It is evening, and a father comes home to his wife and children.
Is that you, John?
Hello.
Hello, Daddy.
Hello, son.
What have you got there, Dad?
I'll show you in a minute. Where's your mother?
In the kitchen.
Hey, Mary, come here.
I'm putting supper here.
Oh, just a moment. Come on out.
Hey, Dad, what is it? It's a funny-looking thing. Sort of like a tank.
Yeah.
What is it you want, John?
What?
The baby's in the kitchen. I've got a kettle of deep fat on the stove. I don't like to leave it.
Oh, look, I brought home a new piece of furniture.
Furniture? That thing? What on earth is it?
There's something for the front hall.
A copper tank in my front hall? Well, I should say not.
Well, anywhere, just so long as it's handy.
What for? Oh, come on back to the kitchen, John. I don't like to leave the baby. John, I smell smoke.
Mom, Dad, quick! The kitchen's on fire! There's still fat all over the floor!
Mary, come back here. You can't go through that fire.
Baby, there's coming, John. Oh, let me
Stand
go,
back.
John.
This thing here, stand back, I tell you. The baby's all right for a minute or two. When I turn this tank upside down...
The fire's spreading.
Now, look out for the nozzle. Stand back, son. This will take care of the fire. Look at it.
It's putting out the fire.
Now, wait a minute. It's going to be all right. But don't go in yet, Mary.
John.
All right. Now, there. Now you can go to her.
Oh, my baby.
Is she hurt?
Oh, no. No, she's just frightened. Oh, there, darling. It's all right. Oh, the fire's going away.
Hey, Dad, what is that thing you brought home?
Son, that's a fire extinguisher. And by golly, it does.
The first practical fire extinguisher was based on a simple chemical principle. When the cylinder was turned upside down, 2 chemicals mixed, generated pressure, and forced the liquid through a short hose. On contact with the fire, the liquid turned to gas that was heavier than air, and so the fire was smothered. Today, we take for granted the elaborate and complex organization of a modern city, which makes equipment and coordination the first factors in safety. Let us trace a great New York City fire in the year 1936. During the evening, a fire starts in a warehouse on the riverfront. For a while, it burns unnoticed by anyone because at this hour, 12th Avenue is almost deserted. Then two men passed by.
Say, Joe.
Huh?
I smell smoke.
Well, what of it? Funnels of the ships around here are always smoking some.
No. This smoke smells sort of bitter and sour-like. Hey, you notice it? I never smelled smoke like this before. Say, I wonder if it... Well, look.
Huh? Where?
Over at that warehouse. Ain't that smoke coming out over the tops of the window shutters?
Why, looks like. Sure. And all along the whole side there.
Well, say, the way it pushes out through those thin cracks...
Looks like it was coming right through the wall. Up there near the roof.
Yeah. Gee, it must be like a furnace somewhere's in there.
We better give him an alarm, quick.
Yeah, there's a firebox over in the corner.
I'll pull the box. You go look for a car.
Right.
The instant a firebox is pulled, the alarm goes directly to the Telegraph Bureau in Central Park. From that central point, the alarm is relayed simultaneously to all fire stations in Manhattan. Within 2 minutes after an alarm sounds anywhere in Manhattan, under any circumstance, at least one company will be at the scene of the fire. At this fire, the following units have responded to the first alarm. 2 ladders, 6 pumpers, in this case one of them is a fireboat, 1 insurance patrol, 1 police car, 2 chiefs of battalions.
All right. I'll take over, Captain.
Okay, Chief. Looks like we'll have to fight it from the outside.
You been inside yet?
Yeah, got an axe on that door now. It's locked.
Where's the watchman?
None in sight.
Well, we'll have a look in there. Peters. Right here, Steve. Give it a good blow near the lock.
All right. That brings it.
All right, come on.
It blows.
Yeah. Hey, there must be a lot of fire in there. Turn in the second alarm. Okay, Steve.
Looks like it's taken all the floors on the riverside.
Yeah, we'll have to fight it from the outside, all right. We open much here. It'll be a big draft.
There's an oil tanker tied up to the dock back there. If she catches...
Pass the word for the fireboat to get the tanker out in the stream. We'll never hold this with 2 alarms. Send in the third.
Okay, Chief.
For the second and third alarms, 10 more engines, another fireboat, a rescue company with gas masks, 2 trucks or hook and ladders, a water tower, a fuel wagon, and a battalion chief arrive on the scene. As it is night, a special call is sent for the searchlight. On the third alarm, calls are also sent to the local gas companies, officials of the fire department, the fire commissioner, and the department ambulance. In a few minutes, over 30 elements are converging on one place through heavy traffic. Meanwhile, on the fireboat... Make fast to that oil tanker! One of you men cut the hoses that tie to the dock. We've got to get her out in the river before she catches fire.
Too late, Captain. Those sparks are falling like rain on her deck structure.
Turn 3 streams on her. We've got to get her in the middle of the river in case she blows up.
If she does, we'll go with her.
That's the chance we got to take.
Captain, and we have her on a tow line.
All right. Full speed ahead. Lieutenant, the water won't help if that oil catches. Hour after hour, the firemen on water and shore struggle with no thought but to safeguard life and property. What a contrast to Bud's fire in Philadelphia 200 years ago in 1736. Today, in towns and cities, through perfect preparation and coordination of men and material, combining almost lightning speed, the most modern instruments of science and engineering, with the intellect of men trained to act promptly on quick judgment, the lives and property are saved daily as a matter of routine. All honor to these fearless guardians of our safety, brave riders in the cavalcade of America. Stories told in this evening's program pay tribute to those whose job is to uphold the rule of safety first. But they can't do that work alone. You and I must do our part to make safety first more than just a slogan.
A large number of products are available to help everyone to do things the safe way, and many of them have been contributed by chemistry. On the stage of this theater from which we broadcast, there is a good reminder of how chemistry aids safety first. Stage scenery is treated with a chemical to make it fire-resistant. An important development of DuPont Laboratories is a fire-resistant motion picture screen made of a coated textile for which DuPont's trademark is Fabricoid. This same safety principle, chemical treatment to defeat flames, has recently been made available for homes. Mattresses have frequently been the starting point of fires, but DuPont chemical products are now used by manufacturers to make mattresses fire-resistant. This chemical treatment likewise repels vermin, thus safeguarding health. It is also a comfort to know that when you visit a doctor's office or hospital, to have an X-ray picture made, that safety X-ray film is now used exclusively for such work. DuPont chemists pioneered in the making of this fire-resistant product. But there are other things besides fire to think of in connection with safety. For example, the skidding rug is a dangerous menace in every home. If you ever see anyone slide on a rug and crash on the floor, don't laugh. A good many legs, hips, and arms are broken that way, and you might be the next to make a pancake landing. DuPont chemists have minimized that hazard by developing a cushion underlay sold under the trademark Rug Anchor. This product, when placed under a rug, tends to anchor the rug to the floor, thus preventing the danger of skids or slips. Rug Anchor also lengthens the life of the rug because of its cushioning effect. If you would like to have a sample of Rug Anchor so you can test its non-slip properties for yourself, just write to DuPont, Wilmington, Delaware. We'll be glad to send you free a piece 5 inches square, large enough to put under a vase or some other object about the house to prevent skidding. Merely write to DuPont, D-U-P-O-N-T, Wilmington, Delaware, and ask for your free sample of DuPont's non-skid underlay Rug Anchor. All the Safety First products that I have mentioned show how DuPont chemists make good their pledge. Better things for better living through chemistry. In many communities, daylight saving goes into effect next Sunday morning. So, Self-Reliance, the story of courageous American women, will be heard next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, when DuPont again presents the Cavalcade of America. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is Sandy Becker saying, keep cooking with Crisco. It's all vegetable. It's digestible.
HOJO Radio. We're your old-time radio headquarters. Stay tuned.
Remember, a Hallmark card will best express your perfect taste, your thoughtfulness. Good evening, this is Jay Jackson. From the heart of New York's glittering Broadway, the makers of Hallmark cards present And So They Married, starring Peter Lawford. Tonight we have a gay, light-hearted story for you about a surprising marriage that had London society buzzing with gossip many years ago. To play the part of our hero, an engaging and ambitious young man, we have that young Londoner and one of Hollywood's most promising and popular stars, Peter Lawford. Welcome to our program, Peter.
Thank you. It's good to be with you again.
Again? Well, when were you on the
Well, you see, I've heard your program often and even imagined myself in some of the parts, so I rather feel that I belong.
Oh, well, we're glad you do. In that case, we'll give you the password so you'll always be able to get back in here.
Oh, I know that, too. Those 3 words, a Hallmark card, tell your friends you cared enough to send the very best.
Mr. Lawford, we welcome you as a lifetime member of our Hallmark Society. Now, let's take our audience to Amsterdam, where an earnest, ambitious young man named Pierre works as a minor clerk in a banking house. Ladies and gentlemen, the makers of Hallmark greeting cards bring you on the Reader's Digest radio edition a wonderful story of real life, And So They Married, starring Peter Lawford. That sound is Mr. Hope writing. And that sound is Mr. Hope swearing. And the reason he's angry is that the quill pen he's using is not sharp. Yes, quill pen, for this scene takes place very long ago in Amsterdam, where Mr. Hope has the principal banking firm. You'd think a big banking firm could get its pen sharpened.
You'd think a big banking firm could get its pen sharpened? Pierre! Pierre!
Yes, Mr. Hope?
You call this a sharp pen?
Well, I'll have it sharpened, Mr. Hope. Meanwhile, you can try mine.
Thank you. But don't go right away.
Oh, I wasn't going to go, sir.
No, you weren't?
No, you may remember I never miss an opportunity, Mr. Hope, when I have your ear, so to speak. I never miss an opportunity, I say, to discuss business.
Business, eh?
Yes, sir. I'm a young man, I'm learning, and I hope that I can say I'm, on the way up. And I find it valuable to talk to you. A man so mature, so wise in the ways of business as yourself. There's much to teach a novice like myself.
Oh, Pierre!
Yes, Mr. Hope?
Your pen is dull, too.
Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. I'll have it sharpened along with yours. Mr. Hope.
Well?
Don't you agree with me?
About what?
Well, it's valuable for me to talk with you, that a man of your experience can teach me so much.
I hope somebody teaches you how to sharpen pens.
Yes, but I mean about business. You see, I'm very ambitious, Mr. Hope.
No, you are.
Yes, sir. I want to rise in this world. I want to have money. I want to have an office of my own like you. I want the power that comes from being a great man of business like you. I want to be able to shout at people when they don't sharpen my pen.
But what are you saying?
I'm sorry, sir. I mean, of course, that I want to be in a position to ask people politely to sharpen my pen. Quite politely, of course.
Young man, are you criticizing me?
Oh, no, Mr. Hope. How could I criticize you when I was about to ask you to... When will I get a promotion?
You? A promotion? Why would you want a promotion?
Why, well, it might be that I'd want to get married.
The girl you marry will be most unfortunate because you will never get a promotion from me.
Well, why not?
You're a clerk here. You have duties. You're supposed to keep the inkwells filled. They're always dry. You're supposed to keep the pens sharpened. They're always dull. You're supposed to empty the waste baskets. They're always overflowing. You will never be a good banker.
Mr. Hope, I will be a good banker. I'm capable right now of being a good banker. When I fail to empty a wastebasket or to fill an inkwell, it's because I'm sitting at my little desk out there, planning how to attract new customers.
Ah, dreaming!
Now, look at this, Mr. Hope, right here in my pocket. I've got a plan that I've evolved. You see, look, here I have a list of the people who use our facilities, but not exclusively. Now, to win that portion of their business, which they do not give to us...
I have no time to listen to the schemes and dreams of office boys.
Oh, very well, Mr. Hope, I'll go.
No, I told you I wanted you to stay here. I have an errand for you to do.
In the city?
No, not even in this country. Across the Channel, in England, in London.
Oh, no, Mr. Hope, not Sir Francis Baring again.
Young man, Sir Francis Baring is one of the most important men in England.
Yes, sir, but he gives you very little business, and you give him far too much service in return.
And you want a promotion. Don't you know that I give him that service in order to eventually win more service from him?
Yes, sir, but the records tell me that you've been doing that for more than 10 years now, and what have you gained by it?
Young man, I will not have you argue with me or question my business methods. You're going to London. You will deliver this letter to Sir Francis Baring's servant.
Why is it that I can never speak to Sir Francis himself?
Because no one but a partner in my banking firm will ever speak to Sir Francis. He's too important a man. Now then, if I can ever get hold of a sharp pen, I will finish this letter, and you will take it to London whether you wish to or not, and deliver it with some securities to the servant of Sir Francis.
you, all the way from Amsterdam. How are you, Mortimer? I have some securities and a letter for Sir Francis. Come in. Thank you.
I don't suppose you're to see Sir Francis personally.
Oh, no, Mortimer, I'm still just a flunky. I'm not important enough to see or to be seen by Sir Francis Baring. You'll have to take these things yourself as usual and, of course, give me a receipt.
Of course.
Mortimer, is there anything you're looking for? Oh.
This man is from Amsterdam, Miss Baring, with a message for your father.
Well, don't let me interrupt you.
Thank you, milady. Mortimer, if you deliver these securities to Sir Francis and bring me a receipt.
Of course. I don't think I'll be long.
Oh, darling.
Oh, Pierre, darling, I've waited so long.
I know. Oh, it's wonderful to hold you in my arms.
Why can't you ask that Mr. Hope to send you to England more often?
Oh, because they suspect something. This sort of errand is not supposed to be fun, exactly. I have to pretend that I hate coming here.
Well, I wish you'd never leave.
I'll take you with me.
Or take me with you?
Eleanor.
Yes, darling?
Do you love me, Eleanor?
Oh, of course I do, Pierre.
But I mean deeply. I mean, you love me enough so that you'd come back with me to Amsterdam. So that you would marry me?
Yes, Pierre. You know I wanted to marry you ever since the first time you came here when you were so bold.
Yes, but I told you that we'd marry when I got a promotion. And Eleanor, Mr. Hope has told me that he will never promote me.
But I don't care.
I do. I still do. But we're going to marry Eleanor anyhow. I've got an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know I can get a promotion in spite of Mr. Hope.
How?
Well, you see, Eleanor, I'll have to ask your father's permission to marry.
No, he'd never give you permission. We'll have to elope.
Well, I'm not going to let you elope with a pauper, even when I'm the pauper.
But, darling, you said Mr. Hope won't promote you, so...
Now, darling, you leave this to me. I'm going to see your father.
No.
Oh, everything will be all right when I've seen him. I'll handle this, darling.
I'm sorry I was delayed, Pierre. Here's the receipt.
Oh, thank you.
Could I help you locate a hansom cab?
No, Mortimer, I'm going to see Sir Francis after all. Conduct me to him, please.
You may leave this young man alone with me, Mortimer. Yes, Sir Francis. Well, young man. So you're from the House of Hope? Yes, sir. An excellent firm. My daughter and I are going to pay a visit to Mr. Hope in Amsterdam. We're sailing across the channel tomorrow.
What? Well, she didn't tell me.
She doesn't know it yet. Say, just a moment. Why should my daughter tell you if she did know?
Well, I was just talking to her, Sir Francis.
Indeed.
I know Eleanor quite well, Sir Francis.
Well enough to call her Eleanor instead of Miss Baring?
Exactly.
I see.
I know her extremely well, Sir Francis. That's why I asked to see you.
Oh, go ahead.
Eleanor and I are in love, Sir Francis.
Well, what? Well, you say you're in love. I say, well, meaning, what of it? I can understand you're being in love. You're both young, you're both good-looking, you're both healthy, so you're in love.
I'm glad you take it this way, Sir Francis.
Yes, don't forget that I still have a question unanswered. What of it?
Why, naturally, Eleanor and I want to get married.
Oh, yes, but that's a non-essential.
Well, not to know that Eleanor and me it isn't.
But to me it is, and I'm the one most concerned in this matter. It's my daughter you're asking for. It's my consent you'll have to get. It's possible that it's my money you really want.
Oh, no, sir.
Yes, well, let's see now. How long have you been with Mr. Hope?
Nearly 2 years.
What was your salary to start with?
In English currency, £20 a month.
And what is your salary now?
£20 a month.
I see. And do you consider this enough for my son-in-law?
No, I don't consider it enough for Eleanor's husband.
And how did you propose to get more?
I thought I might get promoted, sir.
If Hope has not promoted you in 2 years, he'll never promote you.
No, sir.
Don't belsel me. It's quite obvious that you intend to provide for yourself and for my daughter out of my funds. That's not what I raised Eleanor for.
That's not what I intend either, Sir Francis. I'm a good banker and
a banker, are you? At £20 a month. Tell me, young man, just what is your position with the House of Hope?
I'm a clerk.
A clerk? I thought so. Don't call yourself a banker when you're just a clerk. Imagine my daughter married to a clerk.
I suppose it would make a difference if I were a partner in the House of Hope.
Oh, my dear young man, of course it would.
And all you have against me is that I'm a clerk.
Correct. Why, if you were a partner, I'd gladly consent to the marriage. You're dealing with a very materialistic young man, fellow.
I can see that.
That's how I happen to be so wealthy. Now, let there be no misunderstanding. You may be a fine person, but so long as you want to marry my daughter, you and I are enemies. Now, keep away from her. Leave her alone, or I'll turn the police or the dogs on you, or both. Now get out.
In a moment, we'll continue with tonight's story about an ambitious young man from the pages of the Reader's Digest, America's favorite magazine, presented to you by the makers of Hallmark Cards, America's favorite greeting cards. But first, I'd like to tell you about another young man who established a record of accomplishment equaled by few men in all history. At the age of 8, Johann Mattheson played the organ in several churches in Germany. At 12, he had mastered the harp, the violin, the flute, and the oboe. By the time he was 18, he had studied law, learned to speak English, French, and Italian, sang leading parts in the opera, and even produced one of his own. When he was 22, he became secretary of a British legation. Yet, despite his amazing industry, he had the burning ambition to write a book for each year he lived. When he died at the age of 83, he had written 88 books on music, philosophy, and science. Johann Mattheson gave proof to the world that it is possible to do many things well. The makers of Hallmark cards know this, too, for they have spent more than a third of a century making greeting cards for an almost limitless variety of needs, for all kinds of people, for all kinds of occasions. And into every single card, these Hallmark folks put careful thought and warm understanding. You see, they feel they're not making just cards. They're making Hallmark cards. Cards that will express your friendliness, your joys, your sympathies. That's why Hallmark cards are America's favorite greeting cards. That's why you'll always find a Hallmark card to say just what you want to say, the way you want to say it. Now our program continues with Act 2 of And So They Married, starring Peter Lawford. We're on a ship crossing the English Channel. It's a rough voyage, but that does not prevent three of the passengers from being out on deck. That's Sir Francis Barry, sliding along the pitching deck, calling to his brother. His brother is right in the center of the deck, and he isn't sliding or pitching at all. Perhaps that's because Pierre holds her very steady and very, very close.
Oh, darling.
Oh, you should never have gone to see my father.
Oh, I had to.
We'll never get married now.
Yes, we will, darling. You leave it to me.
Yes, you said that before, and then Father had 3 servants throw you out of the house.
Darling, let's not talk. This time together, this crossing of the channel.
If we have, if Father doesn't catch us.
Eleanor! Eleanor!
There he is.
He doesn't see us, though.
Good. Look how he's slipping and sliding.
Poor Father.
Well, you ought to have sense enough to stay in the center of the ship the way we do.
He's sure to see us.
I hope he does.
What?
I mean it. In the first place, you ought to get used to our being together.
But we don't listen together this season.
And in the second place, it'll be a good lesson to you. You'll see I'm able to make capital out of adversity. You'll learn to stop doubting me when I say everything's going to be all right.
Darling.
Yes?
Don't be serious, and don't frown, and don't make orations.
All right. I'll tell you how it's going to be when we're married.
Yes, you tell me that.
Well, of course, marriage is a very dignified institution. I'll have to be a dignified man as soon as I'm married. I think the first thing I'll do is raise a full beard.
Well, then the first thing I'll do is to get a divorce. You know how I picture our marriage?
How?
Well, I won't be rich anymore. So we'll have a very humble dwelling in Amsterdam. No more than 7 or 8 rooms.
I wish I could afford something that humble.
No day long I'll sit and sew patches in my petticoats and patches in your trousers and... Oh, I learn how to darn your socks. I'm pretty good with a needle, you know. You're lucky to have found me instead of a girl who can't do anything.
Are you good at dusting? Are you good at washing and wiping dishes? Are you good at cooking?
Oh, no, but then one of the maids in the cook for.
Darling, I think the time has come, now that you're as old as you are, for me to tell you a few of the facts of life.
Yes, go ahead, darling.
Well, first of all, a modest, humble dwelling, as you call it, would be 1 room.
Oh, you're joking.
Oh, no, 1 room. That's where you'd eat, sleep, play cards, entertain visitors, wash, and try to find a little privacy. So much for the humble dwelling. Now, as to the maids and the cook, people who live in humble dwellings don't have maids and cooks.
I see.
Do you?
Yes. Darling,
Yes.
do you know how to cook?
Why?
Well, I shall want someone to teach me.
You never waver, do you?
No, I never waver, darling.
Oh, I love you more now than ever.
Ask me to marry you.
Will you marry me?
Yes. Anytime you say. 1 room, no money. Oh, anytime you say, darling.
Eleanor,
Yes.
you don't doubt me, do you? You know I love you.
Of course.
And that's why everything's so good between us, isn't it? Knowing, being sure.
Yes, Pierre.
Well, darling, believe me, that's the way I want it to be always. If I let you marry me now, you'd never know. You'd never ever be sure again. The doubt would creep in. And finally, darling, that doubt would be a big, monstrous, ugly, grinning thing standing between you and me.
Darling, no, what doubt could there be?
The doubt as to why I married you. That's why, Eleanor, I'm never going to marry you until I can give you as much as even your father would expect.
Oh, Pierre, you're so wonderful, but... Oh, it's so impossible.
Eleanor!
Good heavens, he's seen us.
Fine.
So, Eleanor, this is how you obey me.
Wait right here, darling. Oh, Sir Francis, here, give me your arm. You're unsteady.
You keep away from my daughter, you pauper.
Of course. Now, just give me your arm, Sir Francis.
Well, I am unsteady.
Yes, you're not a very good sailor, that's all. Come on, now, we walk about the deck.
I want my daughter.
No, you don't, Sir Francis. You just want her not to be with me. Well, she isn't with me now, is she?
There's something in that, of course.
Come on, now, I'll teach you how to be a better sailor. Here you are. Now, just put one foot down after the other.
Well, I can't get the hang of it.
You will. The trick is not to watch your feet. Look up.
Up like this?
That's fine. Now walk.
My feet always strike the deck either before or after I expect them to.
Now, the trick is to look at the horizon. You see? See the horizon? It's up there. Oops. No. Now it's down there. Down, up, down, up. You'll get used to it.
Oh, and I feel awful.
Look at the horizon.
Oh, I want to die.
Really? Oh, Stuart. Yes, sir? Stuart, I do believe Sir Francis is sick.
Oh, yes, I want to die.
Take him to his stateroom, Stuart, will you?
Certainly, sir. Yes, stateroom. I want to die.
Pierre, what's happened?
Oh, nothing. I just got rid of your father. Kiss me, darling.
Yes, Pierre. Oh, Pierre, you're so wonderful.
I don't know why you wanted to come along with me, Eleanor, to see a business establishment.
You know why, Father. This is the house of hope. Pierre works here. I wanted to see it.
Yes, hang it, I know that, but you don't have to be so indelicate as to mention it. In my day, we taught young girls to lie like ladies. Well, here we are. Oh, there, young man, will you kindly tell Mr. Hope that Sir Francis Baring is here to... Oh, it's you.
Yes, Sir Francis, it is I. Hello, darling.
Hello, darling.
That'll be enough of that, both of you. Now then, Pierre, or whatever your name is.
It is Pierre, Daddy. I keep telling you.
Yes, well, Pierre, then. Have you told Mr. Hope that I might be in to see him today?
No, Sir Francis. Mr. Hope got in just a few minutes before you did. I haven't had a chance yet even to report to him about my trip to England.
I'll save you the trouble. I have a few things to report to him about your trip to England, young man.
Now, Daddy, please. Pierre can't help loving me.
Will you kindly stop referring to that indecent emotion?
Oh, excuse me, Sir Francis and Eleanor. I'll go to see if Mr. Hope is at liberty yet. Can you see me now, Mr. Hope?
Yes, come in.
Thank you, sir.
Well, what do you want?
Well, first I thought I'd report on my trip to England.
Report. You got there?
Yes, sir.
You delivered the securities?
Yes, sir.
And the letter?
Yes, sir.
You got a receipt?
Yes, sir.
You brought it back?
Yes, sir.
You filed it?
Yes, Mr. Hope.
Well, that's all the report I need.
Yes, sir.
You may go.
Well, there's one more thing, Mr. Hope.
Well?
I was wondering if I could have a promotion.
You asked me that before, Pierre, and I gave you your answer. No. Not now. Not ever.
I see. Well, I suppose I'll have to take our business to some other banking firm.
Our business?
Yes, you see, Mr. Hope, I'm about to marry the daughter of Sir Francis Baring.
What?
Exactly. And I'm afraid if I can't get a promotion in your little shop...
You're joking.
Am I? Here, I'll open the door a crack. Look out there at my little desk. See?
Why, Jove, it is Sir Francis.
Now then, Mr. Hope?
My boy, what do you want?
A partnership.
You can deliver Sir Francis' business.
If I'm a partner in this firm, yes.
You are a partner, beginning right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hope. Now I'll go see if Sir Francis will come in and talk to you for a little while.
Wait a minute.
Yes?
Don't tell him that I know you're marrying his daughter. I want him to think that I made you a partner without any, consideration.
Oh, don't worry, Mr. Hope. Wait here.
Well, is Mr. Hope ready to receive me?
Nearly ready, Sir Francis. Eleanor.
Yes, darling.
Kiss me.
What's this?
Of course, darling.
Young man, you take your hands off my daughter.
No, sir. I'm going to take your daughter off your hands.
What is the meaning of this?
Sir Francis, didn't you tell me once back in London that if I were a partner in the House of Hope, you would be very happy to let Eleanor marry me?
Yes, but...
Well, I've just been made a partner.
Darling.
And I expect you to keep your word, Sir Francis.
Is this true?
Would I be likely to lie when in a moment you'll be able to check with Mr. Hope himself?
Well, then, blessings on both of you. You may marry.
Oh, darling.
Well, I told you never to doubt me, Eleanor.
Oh, I never will again.
Pierre, my son.
Yes, Father?
Let's not tell Mr. Hope that I know about the partnership.
Oh, of course not.
Frankly, son, I want him to think that I gave permission for this marriage because I recognized your sterling virtues myself.
Oh, I understand. Would you care to go in to see Mr. Hope now?
So by all means.
Come along, Eleanor. Mr. Hope, may I present Miss Eleanor Baring and her father, Sir Francis?
How do you do? How do you do? Sit down, won't you? Oh, thank you. Well, this is a bright fellow you have working for you, Mr. Hope. Pierre? Oh, finest employee I ever had. As a matter of fact, I have just been able to do something very nice for Pierre. Oh, well, I have too. Oh, really? Well, let me tell you what I did first. Oh, no, I want to. But I insist.
Just a moment, gentlemen. Would you mind if Miss Eleanor and I left you?
Why, of course not at all.
It's been very nice meeting you, Mr. Hope.
Yes, Sir Francis. From the very first day Pierre came to work for me, I said, there's a young man that's going to get ahead in the world. Yes, when I first laid eyes on Pierre, I knew he was a high upstanding boy. So I'll tell you what I've done. Let me tell you what I have done.
Oh, darling, how did you ever manage this?
Oh, it was very simple. I made both of them look at the horizon until now they're a little seasick. Come on, my sweet, I'm going to take the day off. Let my underlings do the work.
Thank you, Peter Lawford. Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, Peter Lawford will return. First, I'd like to tell you how easy it is to make a big hit with some child you love. And it's just as easy as this. Send your little friend a Hallmark doll. One of those wondrous, colorful greeting cards that is a doll. They actually stand. And inside, your little friend will be delighted with the stories told in verse. Get one of the Hallmark dolls, Cinderella, Red Riding Hood, or any one of those people from the land of make-believe. They're only 25 cents, and any of the fine stores that carry Hallmark cards will have them. So just for the fun of giving, make some child happy tomorrow. Send a Hallmark doll. And now, here's Peter Lawford again. Thanks, Peter, for a swell performance. It was a great show.
Well, it was a great lesson to me. As a bachelor, I never knew it was so easy to get both the girl and the job.
Now, don't tell me you have any trouble.
Oh, not exactly, but I can tell you how to say no in an awful lot of languages.
Well, Peter, you listen in next week to the Hallmark program. We have the answer for you.
Oh, you interest me, Jay. Who plays the leading role?
One of Hollywood's loveliest, Anne Rutherford.
Well, that's enough for me. I'll be listening.
Join us next Thursday night, ladies and gentlemen, when the makers of Hallmark greeting cards bring you another wonderful true life story entitled Spin a Silver Dollar. The star, lovely Anne Rutherford. Lawford appeared by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, soon to release Frank Capra's State of the Union, starring Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, and Van Johnson. In tonight's story, Peter Lawford was supported by Kathleen Cordell in the role of Eleanor, with Everett Sloan as Hope, and Charles Penman as Baring. And So They Married was dramatized by Robert Sanadella, and was based on the story by Hesketh Pearson as it appeared in the Reader's Digest, America's favorite magazine. The Hallmark program was directed by Mark Loeb, with music especially composed by Jack Miller. To be doubly sure of the finest quality, always look on the back of your cards for those 3 identifying words, a Hallmark card. Hallmark cards are sold only in stores that have been carefully selected to give you expert and friendly service. Remember, Hallmark cards, when you care enough to send the very best. And remember this, too. Americans fear cancer more than any other disease. But this killer can and will be stopped if we get together and attack it on every front. The American Cancer Society, through its threefold program of education, service, and research, is putting up a relentless fight to conquer cancer once and for all. But they need our support to carry on this vital work. Let's all give generously to the American Cancer Society's drive for funds. Give more than before. Now, this is Jay Jackson saying good night to you all until next week at the same time, when our story will be Spin a Silver Dollar, starring Anne Rutherford. Other stars soon to appear on your Hallmark program include Francho Ton, Ralph Bellamy, and Anne Blythe. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is CNBC, Kansas City, Missouri.
Welcome, William Bendix. Nobody can act up to par with a nasty cold. I check my cold distress the fast way, with 4-way cold tablets.
Yes, tests of 4 leading cold tablets proved 4-way fastest acting of all. Amazing 4-way starts in minutes to relieve aches, pains, headache, reduce fever, calm upset stomach, also overcomes irregularity.
4-way is the fast way to relieve those cold miseries. Then you feel better quickly.
4-way cold tablets, only 29 and 59 cents.
Stay tuned to HOJO Radio.
The story of Dr. Kildare.
Whatsoever house I enter, there will I go for the benefit of the sick. And whatsoever things I see or hear concerning the life of men, I will keep silence thereon, counting such things to be held as sacred trusts. I will exercise my art solely for the cure of my people.
The story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres and Lionel Barrymore. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer brought you those famous motion pictures. Now this exciting, heartwarming series is heard on radio. In just a moment, the story of Dr. Kildare. But first, your announcer. The story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Blair General Hospital, one of the great citadels of American medicine. A clump of gray-white buildings planted deep in the heart of New York, the nerve center of medical progress, where great minds and skilled hands wage man's everlasting battle against death and disease. Blair General Hospital, where life begins, where life ends, where life goes on.
Dr. Kildare, Dr. Gillespie.
Well, Parker, what do you want?
Sally just called, Dr. Gillespie.
Remarkable.
You've got to get out of here and hide.
From Sally?
Well, Dr. Gillespie, what's been going on?
Well, she said a man came in the lobby and he has a machine gun and a violin case and a sack full of money and she couldn't stop it. Oh, it's too late. He's here.
Is nobody here? In here. Hey, come on in.
Oh, I beg your pardon, please. I'm Enrico Marciano, and I look for Dottore Gillespie.
Well, you found him. Put your violin case over there and have a seat.
Oh, tante grazie. I planned for a long time to come and see you, Doctor. But I need 8 months to work and to save so I can bring this to you.
What is it, Mr. Marciano?
It's denaro. Money. Penny, nickel, dime, everything.
Well, gestures of this kind are always appreciated. But what's it for?
It's for my wife, Carmen. She's very sick, and I un dolore. Each week, the pain gets worse. But all the time while I save the money, I think, when we go to the great doctor, he will fix. I hear the people talk about you, senor, and so we are here.
You are, at least. Where's your wife?
Oh, she's waiting downstairs in the big room where we come in. She's very sick, senor.
Oh, all right, Mr. Marziano. I'll examine her and see what we can do.
Oh, mille grazie, signore, mille grazie.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Marciano, now what's in the case over there?
Oh, that's my violin. I make a living by playing for the people in the streets.
A violin? Well, I didn't know. I mean, Sally said that naturally. I thought I'd better go arrange a room for Mrs. Marciano.
Well, Dr. Gillespie, that's that. All this laboratory report does is confirm what we've thought for 4 days. It's a shame.
Why do people do it, Jimmy? With all the publicity cancer's had, why do they still put off going to the doctor until it's too late?
Well, in this case, Marciano apparently thought he had to save up the money first.
Money. If she'd been brought here 8 months ago, we might have had a chance. But now, money.
I know, but we can't tell Rico that.
No.
He's crazy about Carmen, and he thought he was doing the right thing. We can't tell him he should have brought her in 8 months ago.
Oh, of course not. No. But we do have to tell him that his wife's going to die.
Yes. Well, he'll be here any minute. How long do you think she has, Doctor?
Well, you saw those x-rays. I'd say a week, maybe 2 weeks.
That's about what I'd estimate.
Huh?
And we can't do a thing.
Dr. Gillespie, Mr. Marciano's here to see you.
All right, Parker. Send him in.
Go in now, Mr. Marciano.
Oh, grazie. Buongiorno, signore.
Morning, Rico.
Oh, it's a fine day outside, signore. The sun is shining, everything is bright, just like a spring. Well, maybe today you find what's the matter with my Carmen, no?
Rico, you'd better have a seat.
Something is wrong with Dr. Kildare? You tell me, no?
Rico, you've heard of cancer.
Well, see, is that what's wrong with my Carmen?
Yeah.
But you will fix? You make everything okay for her, no?
Rico, we can't fix. There's nothing we can do.
Now, everybody say you take a Carmen to this Blair hospital and nothing to worry about. They fix everything fine.
Oh, I only wish we could, Rico. But this is one of the times we can't.
Signore, I walk in here happy just like the bird. It's a beautiful day, and I say, today my Carmen is maybe get well again. But now, the sun no shine, and I feel just like a dead man.
I know. We understand.
Would you like to go on up and see your wife now?
No. Grazie, no. Because she look at my face and see the heart inside of me is dead. And then she ask, Rico, why this look? No, signore. First I go sit in the park. I come back a little while. Arrivederci.
Confounded tarnation.
morning, Mrs. Marciano.
Oh, Dr. Kildare, buongiorno.
How do you feel?
Oh, it's not too bad. This morning, I'm not thinking I'm a lie here in bed. For 1 hour, I'm a live in a place so far away.
Where is that?
It's in Italia, in Napoli. I must think it's a long time ago, when I'm a young girl again.
That wasn't so long ago.
You're make polite to say so, but I have a son who's go to college, Dr. Kildare.
Why, I didn't know you had a son. Rico didn't say anything about it.
Well, they're no get along so good. My Tony is a look just like Rico did when we were young together. So handsome.
Were you born in Naples?
Si, senor. In the little house by the bay. And in the night, when the moon is shining, Rico is come and we walk on the road by the sea. And he's a play for me on the violin. It's so sweet. Always. He's so good to me. He's make a good life for us for many years. I'm not sorry for anything. Not even if I'm gonna die, Dr. Kildare. I'm not sorry.
Oh, now, what makes you think you're going to die?
You try to fool me. I think maybe Rico's telling you to, huh? But I know. I'm feel it inside. Is it true? No?
Yes. Yes, it's true.
I no feel bad, senor. I'm no afraid. It's only I feel so unhappy when I think of Rico all alone.
There'll still be Tony, your son. Maybe this will bring the two of them closer together.
I don't think so. No, you see, Tony is a move away. You know, come home for 2 years. He's a think we are, how it is said, old-fashioned, old country. He's right, of course. But he should no be ashamed of his papa. Rico is a wonderful man. He's a great man.
You want to know something, Mrs. Marciano? I think you're both great people.
Jimmy, probably one of the hardest things a doctor has to learn is to keep his emotions separated from his profession.
I know. Most of the time I think I have learned it. But something about this couple hits me. It's hard.
Yeah, they're fine people, both of them, with a rare courage and tenderness for each other, and faith in life. They're a remarkable pair.
And yet we can't save her life.
No, we can't.
Well, I've thought of a few things we might do, though. Small things, I guess, but better than just standing by doing nothing.
Good.
For instance, I've had Carmen moved into the best room in the hospital, one of the Regent's suites. I billed the charges against the general fund.
Excellent idea, Jimmy. I wish I'd thought of it.
Well, there is one thing I was hoping you'd do.
Well, count me in.
Dr. Gillespie, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, what is it, Big Ears?
Well, Dr. Carew is here. He'd like to see Dr. Kildare.
Oh, well, send him in, Parker.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
It was.
Dr. Kildare, I have been informed that you made a very irregular charge to the general fund. Oh, most irregular indeed.
I suppose you mean Mrs. Marciano's room, Dr. Carew.
Quite so, and it simply can't be done, you know.
It's been done already. I think the fund can stand it this one time.
It's entirely out of the question. Oh, don't think I haven't my humanitarian side, too, but this hospital must be kept on a strict business-like basis, and I'm sure...
Carew! I am amazed that the name Marziano doesn't mean anything to a great lover of music like you.
Well, I suppose I do know Marziano.
Huh.
At the moment, it seems to slip
Oh, you must remember the famous modern opera, La Burrasca? That won the grand prize at the Paris Festival in 1924, as I recall.
Huh? Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. I'd forgotten for the moment.
Yeah, Kildare and I were sure you'd want the wife of a famous composer like that to have the best, regardless of cost.
You're quite right, Dr. Gillespie. I didn't realize that this man was so fit, that this was the same Marziano, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, if you'll excuse me, I have a great many things to do.
La Burrasca. You know, it'd be remarkable if there really was an opera by that name. Well, Jimmy, let's go to work.
We return to the story of Dr. Kildare in just a moment. Continue with the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Parker speaking. Commissioner Averill? Oh, yes, Sally. Dr. Gillespie was calling him. Just a second. Commissioner's on the line now, Dr. Gillespie.
Oh, good. Here, hand me that phone. Hello? Hello, Tom. Leonard Gillespie. Oh, fine, thanks. Feeling younger every day. How are those ulcers of yours? Glad to hear it. No, I'm not trying to drum up business, Tom. But I would like a small favor from you. I don't know whether you recall a violin player named Rico Marziano. Plays in the streets around town and down. All right, Tom. Thank you. Goodbye. There's another one, Parker. You can count him in, too.
Well, we've almost covered the list, Dr. Gillespie.
Yeah, 32 promises and a pretty fair list of names, too.
Yeah.
Well, I can't think of anybody I've missed. I hope Kildare's making out all right.
No, he should be over there by now. Wayman took him at least 20 minutes ago.
Parker, you idiot.
What?
You nearly let me forget the most important one of all.
I let you. Well, how should I know who...
Shut up and don't start another argument. Just get on that phone and put a call through to the office of the mayor.
Just a second.
Yes? Are you Tony Marziano?
Why, yes.
My name is Kildare. I'm a doctor on the staff at Blair General Hospital. Do you mind if I come in?
Well,
Thanks.
You don't have me mixed up with somebody else, do you?
No, I don't think so. You're a law student here, and you're Rico Marziano's son, aren't you?
Yes, but did my father send you here?
No. Neither of them knew I was coming. Tony, your mother's in the hospital, seriously ill.
Mama? What's wrong with her?
Cancer.
It was all my fault. I had no reason to leave them, but I was mixed up and I didn't...
I know. You grew up in this country and you wanted to look and act like everybody around you. They had their own ways and maybe people even laughed at them sometimes.
That's it. Mostly it was Dad going around the streets with his violin, picking up coins.
Raising a son by doing it. Holding the love and admiration of a pretty, wonderful woman.
I know that. I knew it a week after I left, but I couldn't go back. Pride, I guess. Look, Doctor, about money for treatments. Now, I'm working part-time outside of class hours, so I can help
No, it isn't money your mother needs. It's to see you and Rico friends again.
I don't know. Dad's got a lot of pride himself. He may not be willing to forget.
Like to bet?
I just hope he will, that's all.
Oh, there's one thing, Tony. I said your mother was seriously ill. She is. In fact, she has only a few days to live.
I'll get my coat, Dr. Kildare.
I tell you again, I can't understand.
Understand what, Rico?
Well, look at this room, all filled up with the flowers. Everybody's sending flowers and a telegram. Look at this one. It says, "My sincere wishes for a speedy recovery for your lovely wife, your friend, Commissioner Tomas Avaril." But this man I no see in my life.
But that doesn't make no difference. He see you. It's just like I tell him, Dr. Gillespie. My Rico is a great man, but he no thinks so.
Madre Dio. Still, I can understand.
Who is it?
Only one way to find out. Come in. Oh, Kildare.
Hello, everybody. Mind if I bring in a visitor?
Hello, Mama. Papa.
Tony. Oh, Antonio.
How are you, Mama?
Oh, Dios mío. Before I had the heart froze with ice, but now you are come. I must start talk like the river at Napoli in the springtime. Tony, you speak with your father. You be friends, huh?
Antonio. I can't find no words to say.
Papa, I'm sorry.
Sorry? But for what are you sorry?
I said things I didn't mean.
Oh, that's nothing. It's no matter now. What you say one time and make me shame that I'm a nobody. And I can't forgive you. But now it's different. Look, my boy, look, this is a telegram. It's from a big people who call me their friend. Look, come on, you read. Read with me. This one is from the commissioner.
Gillespie speaking. You don't say so, Carew. Well, maybe you don't have the right spelling of the name. All right. Meet me in my office in 3 minutes. I've got some telegrams I want to show you. Goodbye.
What's the matter? Has Carew finally caught on?
Pipsqueak. He's coming up for air for the 3rd time. You stay here, Jimmy, and I'll shove his head underwater again.
There is simply no use whatsoever in hunting through any more reference books, Dr. Gillespie. There is no Italian composer named Enrico Marciano. You hoodwinked me.
Hoodwinked you?
This man is just a street violinist, a mendicant. And you've kept his wife in that room under false pretenses. You and Kildare, between you, have deliberately...
Carew! Shut up.
I beg your pardon.
Here. Take a look at these telegrams.
Well, I can hardly see what telegrams could have to do... why, this one is from the mayor.
Go on, read them, all of them.
Well, I had no idea this man had so many influential friends. I believe we can stretch a point and forget about...
Carew! You're a fool.
Dr. Gillespie.
Good night.
It's a fine thing you do for us, Dr. Kildare. You and Dr. Gillespie.
We didn't do anything.
Oh, this nice room, all these flowers, so lovely. And this telegram, they'll make my Rico feel big and strong again. But it's best of all, you bring my Tony back for be friends with his papa.
It didn't take very much bringing. He was just mixed up. Too proud to admit it.
Still is good thing. Now Rico is... Listen. Is my Rico playing the violin?
Yes. I guess he must be down below there in the street. Would you like the window open?
No, I'm hear it fine. Everything's so strange. It's like a long time ago. It's played the same song in Napoli. I feel like a young girl. And it's a springtime by the sea. It's warm. And I'm a walk on the road with Rico. Happy like a bird. Dr. Kildare, you tell Rico I'm like the song very much.
Yes, I'll tell him.
So long a time. So good a life. Oh, Rico mio. Rico.
Come in, Dr. Gillespie.
Parker said the Marzianos were leaving early, so I wondered if... Oh, when, Jimmy?
Just now.
Oh, that's too bad. That's Rico out there, huh?
Yes. And I don't think he's really out there at all. I think he's on a road near Naples in the moonlight, serenading a beautiful young girl a long time ago.
In just a moment, we will return to the story of Dr. Kildare. Once again, the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
What a session that was.
What's the matter, Jimmy? Tough case this morning?
Yeah, obstetrical. Turned out okay. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Mother and son getting along nicely. Why did we do it, Dr. Gillespie?
Why did we do what?
Become doctors.
Well?
Last night, Carmen Marziano died. This morning, I deliver a new baby. Score 1-1. So what's it all add up to?
Life?
And death.
Well, they're both counterparts of the same thing.
What is that same thing?
Well, now, the Society for Dealing with Profound Questions is now in session. Dr. Kildare has just asked what is the same thing. Dr. Kildare is a brilliant young physician and surgeon who was occasionally troubled by a hole in his head. And at such times, he thinks he doesn't want to be a doctor.
All right. The witness withdraws the question. Maybe I am tired. Last night hit me pretty hard, but when you come right down to it, I guess if I couldn't be a doctor, I wouldn't want to be anything else in this world.
You have just heard the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres and Lionel Barrymore. Dr. Kildare is presented by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of Malaya, starring Spencer Tracy, James Stewart, Valentina Cortesa, Sidney Greenstreet, and John Hodiak. This program was written by Les Crutchfield and directed by William P. Russo. Original music composed and conducted by Walter Schumann. Supporting cast included Virginia Gregg, Jay Novello, Ted Osborne, Peggy Weber, and Peter Leeds. Dick Joy speaking.
coupon 17. Are you planning to use your shoe ration coupon to buy white shoes? If so, give them the best of care. Keep them clean with Energine Shoe White. No shoe white can make your shoes look whiter than Energine Shoe White. It's made with the very whitest pigment known, and it spreads so easily, dries so evenly, it gives your shoes the neat, well-kept look they must have to give you the most satisfactory wear. For the best of care for the white shoes you wear, remember Energine Shoe White. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
HOJO Radio, where the classics come alive.
We delay the start of this program to bring you a special news bulletin. From the NBC newsroom in New York, 2 fresh columns of North Korean troops have crossed the Han River and are moving southward below Seoul. 2 other invader columns have outflanked the town and airstrip of Suwon on the east. And a spokesman at a U.S. advanced headquarters in Korea says the defense situation has definitely worsened in the past 24 hours. Keep tuned to your NBC station for the later news.
The Adventures of the Saint, starring Vincent Price. The Saint, based on characters created by Leslie Charteris and known to millions from books, magazines, and motion pictures. The Robin Hood of modern crime now comes to radio, starring Hollywood's brilliant and talented actor Vincent Price as the Saint.
Hello, Templar's Mortuary.
Mr. Simon Templar?
Unfortunately.
Littleton is calling.
What time is it?
At the sound of the... I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to give that information. Littleton is calling.
All right, put him on.
One moment, please. Hello?
Hello?
Is this Simon Templar?
Yes, it is.
Well, my name is Shirley Gray. Please, I need your...
Yes, go on. Hello?
Sammy.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, well, I was just calling you at the theater.
You knew I was with the cops. Hang it up.
All right. Hello? I'm sorry I bothered you. Sammy just got back.
Hello? Hello?
Your party has hung up, sir.
So they have, thank you. Shirley Gray. Shirley Gray. Oh, of course.
Homicide, Lieutenant Schwartz.
Guess who?
Oh, no. Templar? No.
You hate me, don't you?
Templar, this is the Homicide Bureau. I am up to the cleft of my rugged chin in work. I got maniacs confessing to murders that never happened. I got murderers caught in the act who say, who, me? And now, I got Templar.
Yes, Lieutenant?
Templar, you got something to say? Say it.
Anyone for badminton?
Templar,
Okay, Lieutenant. I just want some information.
Read the newspapers, Templar. They whip up the crime waves. I don't.
Well, then, what do journalism's juvenile delinquents have to say about events in the city of Littleton today?
You don't know?
I couldn't even guess.
Well, stay happy. Go back to bed.
Lieutenant, I'll write a letter to the Times.
Okay, Templar, have it your way. You ever hear of a band leader named Terry Richards?
Of course. You mean the one they call the real gone guy?
I hope to hold your half note, Templar. He's real gone, all right. So gone he's dead. He was strangled.
Oh? Well, thank you, Lieutenant, for your first exclusive.
Look, if you're figuring to butt in, Templar, I wouldn't.
Now, you know me.
You remember Lieutenant Ruggles?
Old meathead?
Old meathead. Well, he's now chief of police at Littleton. You'd better stay out of his way.
Well, I wouldn't dream of getting in his way. Or would I?
I'm not kidding, Templar. Terry Richards was a real big name. Ruggles wants this one for himself. You get in his way, he'll have you so deep in the pokey they'll be feeding you with a pea shooter. And hey, on second thought, is that bad?
Lieutenant.
Yes, Templar.
Did someone spike your bubble gum this morning?
Yes,
Goodbye, pal. Don't sneeze into the breeze.
sir?
I'd like to go backstage, please, Mr. Doorman.
Well, it's possible to get there if your cultural development is at a certain level.
Well, I'm fond of Mondrian.
I collect Americana. I am fond of portraits of those men who have become our presidents. I am especially cheered by portraits of Lincoln, done, of course, on fine paper in black, bordered and shaded in hues and shades of green, which one finds so cool and comforting.
Your taste is admirable. It happens that here you are.
Why, perfect specimen. Pass, friend.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Mr. Templar.
You know me? You expected me?
Miss Gray hoped for you. She described you.
Still, it cost me $5.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Miss Gray is in her dressing room. First corridor to your right, and first door to the left.
Oh, thank you. Say, tell me something. Is this the same Shirley Gray who sings ballads so wonderfully?
The same. But she sings them no more. Merlo Rooney El Rowdy.
You swallowed something?
Bop. That's what the great Terry Richards played.
Oh, I gather you were not a fan of the late Mr. Richards.
The man who knocked him off was a hero.
I see.
Miss Gray is the only nice person in the band. Take care of her, will you?
Do you think she needs taking care of?
There's a killer running around, Mr. Templar. Of course, if he's just after another musician, that's all right.
The killer's going to hate you in the morning.
He wouldn't dare. First corridor to your right, first door to the left, Mr. Templar.
You frightened me. You're...
Simon Templar, Secretary, Shirley Gray Fan Club, Cell 3, Group 2, currently underground at Toots Shores.
Oh, Mr. Templar, I'm so glad.
Who is Sammy?
He's... What do you mean?
Well, all the way down here, I've been asking myself, why would Shirley Gray call me? And after calling, why would she hang up just because a man named Sammy entered the room? You see, I'm just the old curious one.
Well, I want you to do one thing for me. Find out who killed Terry Richards.
Now, that's a job for the police, isn't it?
Well, they might get the wrong person.
Sammy, for instance?
Well, they might not find out in time. Somebody else might get killed.
The doorman seems to have had the same thought. What brings it on?
Well, no one knows why Terry was killed. Nobody liked him, but nobody hated him enough to kill him. This is almost the work of a maniac. There was no reason for it.
You mean no one was ambitious, jealous, frustrated?
Oh, don't talk like that.
You're hiding something from Simon.
Please don't joke. I found Terry's body. I called the police, and they said he must have been strangled with a stout, thin cord, but...
Well?
Well, they're wrong about it and about everything else. He was strangled with a...
What's this? Another cop?
Sammy, this is Simon Templar, the saint. Simon,
I told you to let it alone, Shirley. Get out, Templar.
I'm happy to know you too, friendly one.
Look, Templar, we're being held in this offbeat burg and we can't get out. I'm spending all my time at the jail answering the silly questions of these cornball cops. And now you. I've got rehearsals to do. Now, will you get out?
Oh, no, Sammy. No, not rehearsals already. Why, Terry hasn't even been...
Yes, Sammy. Why are you so anxious to get in rehearsal?
We've got a contract for a concert tour. That's what we were doing in this corn palace, warming up for the tour. The band's got to be in shape in a week or the contract is canceled. No contract, no tour. No tour, no band. No band. We're in a panic. Do you see?
No. Just where do you fit in here?
I like money. I eat it.
It's cheaper than food these days.
Besides, if we make out, the agency is giving me the band. I got it coming. Just like Terry had what happened coming to him.
Oh, Sammy.
Well, Terry was a Slav, and you know it.
You are a man of grace and charm, Sammy.
Send him away, Shirley. Get him out of here.
Gentle psychotic, isn't he? As we jazz lovers say, this routine is murder.
Oh, I'll talk to him. Will you wait for me, Simon?
Need you ask?
May I come in, Mr. Templar?
Of course. Say, how did you know me?
I talked Shirley into calling you. My name's Dick Carver.
Oh. You're with the band?
All I do is beat these lousy drums. You ever hear that joke?
Yeah, to the point of nausea. Who killed Terry Richards?
I don't know. The cops thought Shirley might have because she found him, but it wasn't Shirley. I had her call you so you could prove it was someone else.
Well, what was she doing in his dressing room? Was it her habit to go there? But Carver, dear boy, if you want me to help...
Okay. Lay out for 4 bars and I'll give you the score. I understood Terry Richards. I didn't like him any more than anybody else, but I did understand him. I've been with him since the year 1. Sammy has, too, only he played a 3-year job with the Army.
Sammy called Terry a slob.
Yeah. Before the war, Sammy and Terry started this band. Terry funded it, Sammy arranged and conducted rehearsals. The man sent him greetings, and he went into the paratroops and came back tough and hard.
I thought he'd kill Terry when he found out Terry had cut in for 100% of the band. I remember his hands were just aching.
Why did he come back with Terry?
Terry was up here, Mac. Number one. He was willing to pay for Sammy's talent and pay good. That's the only way he could keep anybody, including Shirley. Poor kid. It wasn't enough she had to work for him. She had to go along with him a little way if she wanted her job. And she did.
Why? Why, she used to be the biggest name on radio without Terry Richards. How did she ever become a band singer?
Well, canaries are hard to figure. Maybe that's the question you've got to answer.
This Terry Richards seems to have been a dismal kind of snail.
Well, I admired him, Mr. Templar, for one reason. He knew how to compete. Fight, cheat, steal, hit below the belt, but stay on top. He had one philosophy, and it fit this world great. Hooray for me and nuts to you. If I could have had that, I'd have done all right. I'd have been bigger than Terry Richards. But I haven't got it. I admired the man who had it.
This has been an enchanting recital of the foibles of humanity, but who killed Terry Richards?
I wish you'd find out.
Why are you so anxious, dear?
Because without Terry, this band can still go places. Oh, we needed him like the Met needs Carmen Lombardo. Now Sammy will be in charge, don't you see? And he'll give everybody a chance, even me.
What do you mean?
Well, Terry wouldn't give any of us a chance to shine. We always had to feature his guitar. Well, we got a real gone arrangement of Temptation. Just me on Timps and Shirley on voice. Real gone, real gone. But Terry wouldn't even listen.
I've heard of progressive music as a sample. I'd say it hasn't gone quite far enough. It's still in the range of hearing.
Oh, now, Mr. Templar. But Shirley.
Come on, let's go.
This way, the green room. Good heavens, Shirley.
Out of the way. Call the cops. Hurry.
Oh, Mr. Templar.
Are you all right, Simon?
Oh, yes, Angel. I'll be all right. Hey, I thought you were dead.
She just fainted, Templar.
Did you call the police, Dick?
Between giving her smelling salts and bathing your head, I haven't had much of a chance.
What, as they say in the whodunits, happened?
Well, somebody slugged you from behind and pushed me through the door and slammed it.
Oh, my neck. Oof, there must have been a rabbit punch.
Do you want a doctor, Simon?
Dear Hud, I want an answer. By the way, what did happen to you?
Well, I argued with Sammy for a while, and then I came over here, and I picked up Sammy's baton, and this was wrapped around it.
Wait till I stand up. Oh, that floor was so comfortable. Hey, what is this thing?
It's an E-string from a guitar.
It's what was used to kill Terry.
Probably from his own guitar.
Probably someone had a sense of poetic justice, a guitar string for a guitarist. Let me see that thing. Ow!
What's the matter?
I pulled it tight. It cut into my hands. Hey, wait a minute. Did you know Terry was killed with an E-string, Shirley?
Well, it was beside him when I found him. Between the time I called the police and the time they got here, someone had taken it.
Shirley, my sweet, Emily Post has it that when one is in possession of evidence or information about evidence, one tells the cops or one suffers, one does.
Well, I was afraid.
But you see, you are more afraid now. This thing is a warning for Sammy, for you, for everybody. Hey, by the way, where is Sammy? Why didn't he come running when he heard you scream?
Same reason I knew she was in the green room and not his dressing room. His room is soundproof.
Well, I move that we adjourn to Sammy's little cell and see.
No.
Shirley, you're not going to be stubborn.
All right, let's go.
Something tells me we've got to break it down.
Oh, Sammy!
The E-string again.
All right, Dick, now.
The cops?
The cops.
But Sammy
We'll take care of Sammy, I hope.
Mr. Templar, I have answered the questions of the police. I have answered the questions of my wife. Now you want me to answer your question.
My friend, as doorman of this house of culture, you are in a most enviable position. You see who goes and who comes. Now, let me review the bidding. The famous Terry Richards...
The infamous Terry Richards?
Nonetheless, he was killed. A bumbling, murderous toad came within a minute of killing Sammy today. The same wart-brained idiot delivered a rabbit punch to my neck. I only want to be sure it was no outside force. Do you follow me?
As the animal act follows the acrobats, Mr. Templar. But I must repeat, no insidious force has come through these portals. Unless that force be you, and you should hear Chief Ruggles on the subject of you. Police.
You don't like the police?
Mr. Templar, the police were put on this earth for one reason, so that so-called musicians could arise in the morning with the assurance that somewhere on earth there was someone lower on the scale of human beings.
You could be censored for that. Tell me, are you here all the time?
Mr. Templar, There are matters one does not discuss with just any stranger.
Oh? Oh, touche, I'm sure. I simply want to learn who could be a murderer. That's all. It's a simple want. Some people want food. I want a murderer. Some people want a new apartment. I want a sneaky, soft-pedaled thug who could walk so softly he would be unheard. And who would slug me from behind.
Even I could do that, Mr. Templar. I wear sneakers. They're relaxing. I could come upon you so quietly.
So you could. I'll give it thought. Thank you so very much.
It was nothing, Mr. Templar.
I know. Nothing. You feeling better, Sammy?
Templar, are you still around?
You're not happy with me, Sammy.
Sammy, please. If it weren't for Mr. Templar, you might be dead.
Oh. If he hadn't shown up, it wouldn't have happened. He got a hold of something and scared somebody, that's all.
Whom did I frighten, Sammy? You?
What do you mean?
It occurs to me that if I were a person so willed and so frightened, I could hold a wire about my neck and induce unconsciousness.
You've got rocks in your head, Templar. Why don't you leave it alone? Let the cops have
Because
it.
somebody slugged me, Sammy, and I'm very sensitive about such things.
Why don't you two stop fighting? This is serious. Somebody else is going to get hurt.
Yes, and I hereby nominate Simon Templar.
I must decline because of the press of business. Look, instead of us arguing like this, why don't you go rehearse?
Oh, great. Now he's going to run the band, too.
No, but at least you'll be out of my hair for a while.
Oh,
Sammy has an abrupt personality. Well, Shirley, we're alone.
Simon, are you getting anywhere?
The answer to that would have to come from your own lovely lips. You're very sweet, Shirley. To see you as you are now, as they say in the soap operas, it does something to me, dear.
Well, suppose whoever it is gets away with it. Suppose he succeeds next time, kills Sammy or me.
Tell me, Shirley, did you kill Terry?
What did you say?
I said, did you kill Terry and try to kill Sammy?
Simon!
I'm very rude. My analyst tells me. Oh, never mind my analyst. I hate him. You didn't answer my question.
No, I didn't kill Terry. You satisfied?
Eminently. Tell me something, Shirley. A couple of years ago, you were going great guns as a soloist. I remember reading something about a big recording contract. I had your recording of April in Paris. It was one of the best things I ever heard.
I'm still getting royalties on it.
How is it that you came to work with a band? What happened that you gave up your contracts and your big career? Why do you stay with this band?
Is my career pertinent?
I don't know, but I do know that we're going to have this cleared up very soon.
Oh, do you really think so?
Mm-hmm. I've got something right on the tip of my mind. Can't quite get hold of it, but I will. And if we can clear it up in time and Sammy has the band in shape, you'll be hitting the road, so you'd better be in shape.
But
Why don't you go to your dressing now and rest, huh? Go on. It'll do you good.
Well, all right. If you say so.
I'll walk with you. Is that idea of Dick's about temptation going to work out, really?
I don't know, Simon. I'm not too crazy about it, but maybe it will. I hope so for Dick's sake.
Dick's sake?
Yes. You know, every time Sammy wrote an arrangement so Dick would have some breaks, Terry would insist that it be rewritten for his guitar. And poor Dick would just sit up and keep a rhythm. As he said, all he does is play those lousy drums.
Yes, it might be a break for Dick at that. He's a nice fella. He's got something coming, I should suppose.
Well, this is where I drop off. What are you going to do?
Oh, I don't know. Catch a murderer, maybe? Dick?
Oh, hello, Mr. Templar.
Oh, no, don't stop playing. Go right ahead, Dick.
Oh, I was just passing the time of day.
Well,
You having any luck?
Well, I'm about to step out of the store window and call for Philip Marlowe.
Well, if there's anything I can do, or any of the fellas for that matter, I know they'll help.
I thought they were all happy to see your late maestro go. That was the impression I had.
Now, Sammy might give you that impression, or that whacked-up doorkeeper out there. But I don't think anybody likes to see somebody murdered, especially when they know the killer is still on the loose.
Mm-hmm, but you fellas seem to be taking it in stride.
Some people, yes, some people, no. Me, I'm worried.
Oh, take it easy now. Say, you certainly need a lot of paraphernalia in your trade.
Yeah, cymbals, chimps, bongo, tambourine.
What are these things?
These? These are clays.
What are they for?
Set a rhythm for the Latin American stuff. Here, let me show you. See? Very simple.
Yes, indeed. Very simple. Yeah, this is quite an array of stuff for one who just beats the drum.
That's all I do. Beat these lousy drums.
Well, I have to do some more snooping, Dick. I'll see you around.
Okay, Mr. Templer.
Lousy drum.
Hey, what's the idea of busting in here?
Sammy, I've got 2 questions for you if you're interested in finding Terry Richards' killer.
I'm not.
Number 1, you were in the paratroops?
Yes, I was in the paratroops.
Number 2, did you make patrols behind the lines where you had to kill a man with your own hands?
You scum.
I asked you a question, did you?
That's my answer. Now get out of here. And if I set eyes on you again, I'll...
Kill me, Sammy?
Get out!
You know, I think I'd feel much better if you'd take my head in your lap and bathe my face. I'd feel much better.
Oh, Simon, stop it. You know, you shouldn't have just barged in on Sammy like that. He has a temper, and he doesn't like to be reminded of... Well, you just should have been more diplomatic.
I was. Diplomacy, my dear girl, is not always a matter of kid gloves.
Oh, Simon, why don't you give it up? I'm awfully sorry I got you into this.
I'm not at all. It's well worth everything just to sit here and have your sympathy and... Hey, Shirley.
Simon, what's the matter?
That dress form. Round the neck of it. An E string.
Oh, Simon,
Never mind, Shirley. I think I know what it means now, all of it.
But why me? Do I know something? What is it?
No, you don't know anything, but you've done something. Yes, it figures.
Oh, Simon.
Now, don't cry, Shirley. Tell me, did Sammy get someone to take Terry's place with the guitar?
No.
Good. First, we'll take care of that for him.
But I...
Second, you're going to make sure the public address system is warmed up in the wings so I can use it. And third, you're going to tell Sammy and Dick you want to run through temptation.
Oh, no, Simon, I couldn't.
Make like that tired old gag. You know, the show must go on. It's one of the most important things in your life. And I want you to do just as I say, or I'm afraid you're not going to have a life to have important things happen in.
Okay, let's take it once and then forget it. No count. It's up to you, Dick. Take it in the downbeat.
You ready, Maestro?
Yeah.
Okay, now, remember what you're to do.
Ready, Shirley?
Yeah, Sammy.
Dick, roll it.
You came, I was alone. I should have known you were temptation. You smiled, luring me on. My heart was gone. You were temptation.
Okay, Maestro, it's yours. What's the matter, Dick?
You get away from me, Templar, I'll kill you.
Your killing days are over, son. All over.
What are you trying to do, Templar? You trying to louse up the whole band?
The music you play hasn't loused up your band. How could I possibly do
you
it? Simon will clip you.
Dick, how could it... I don't understand.
We understand, don't we, Dick?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sammy, if you will call the cops, I'll tell Dick a little story about a man who was very ambitious, who wanted to be big and important like Terry Richards, who didn't want anybody to get in the way of his ambitions, who admired selfishness and ruthlessness. That's about the story we'll tell, isn't it, Dick?
All I do is beat these lousy drums. All I do is beat these lousy drums.
Why did he try to kill me, Simon?
Why, dear, just remain as you are. Isn't this romantic?
Simon, you should know that...
Oh, I do know. He killed Terry because, as you said, Terry took all the licks. Which is to say that Dick thought belonged to him. Then he got real ambitious. He wanted to be like Krupa, have his own band, and he tried to kill Sammy. Then he could fight for the leadership of a band that was already great.
Oh, it's so awful.
Dear heart and gentle woman, it's so wonderful.
Simon.
I mean meeting you.
Oh, but when did you first suspect?
That you were wonderful.
No, that Dick was the killer.
I was puzzled that someone had used a guitar string for the purpose of strangling Terry Richards. It cuts into the hands, and there's no purchase unless it's wound around the hands, and that gives no wire for strangulation. Then I came across the claves of Dick's drum, and everything fell into place.
I see. You know, I remember when Sammy got back from the army and we had a party, and he got drunk and told us how they used to kill the enemy with wire, the ends of which were tied to batons to give them, what did you say, purchase?
Sure. You're making Simon sound anticlimactic, and that's not in the contract.
Oh, I'm sorry, Simon. You really did a good job, but...
No, just stay as you are, dear.
Oh, Simon...
Well, in any event, Dick remembered Sammy's tales with the paratroops. He tied the ends of the guitar strings to the claves he used for Latin American rhythms. And then he approached his victims from the rear, looped the wire over their heads, and curtains.
Ooh, how terrible.
It was very clever. When you screamed and fainted and we came to you, he stepped behind me and slugged me. Then he ran to make his pass at killing Sammy. He wasn't clever enough to take his time and make it thorough.
Oh, I think it's so gruesome.
I think it's wonderful.
Oh, Simon, you can't.
But I do. The more I explain, the more you shiver. And the more you shiver, the closer you come. And it's wonderful.
Will you please listen to me for a moment?
No, dear, you're upset. You'll be going back to the city now. You know, I think that monster Chief Ruggles will release all of you. Why don't you have dinner at my place, just you and me? You'll like my place. I have a fine collection of modern art, especially Picasso.
You're inviting me to come up and see your Picasso?
My dear, when one as charming as you comes to my place, it's not to see the Picassos, but the handwriting on the wall.
What are you doing with my wife, Templar?
You're...
My wife.
Oh, how depressing.
Simon, that's what I've been trying to tell you. You asked why I stayed with this band and gave up my other career. Well, it's because Sammy and I have been secretly married for 6 months.
Oh, no.
Well, that's why I called you. I was afraid when the police found out, they'd think that Sammy killed Terry because of jealousy.
I would still like to know, Templar, what you were doing with your arm around my wife.
I was consoling her.
Oh. I've got some consolation for you.
Sammy, I wouldn't advise violence. I'm ready this time.
Violence? You've got me all wrong. Chief Ruggles.
Sammy.
Now, what do you want? You still looking for Templar?
What else?
Here he is.
Oh, no.
Templar.
Hello, Chief.
I want to talk to you.
Say goodbye to the nice man, Shirley.
Goodbye, Simon. And thanks.
Dear, my sweet. We'll meet again.
Over my dead body.
I'll try to arrange it.
You have been listening to another adventure of the Saint, the Robin Hood of modern crime. Now here's our star, Vincent Price.
Ladies and gentlemen, in tonight's cast, you heard Vivi Janis, Larry Dobkin, Lou Merrill, Jack Edwards, and Bill Johnstone. This is Vincent Price inviting you to join us again next week at this same time for another exciting adventure of the Saint. Good night.
Script of The Saint was written by Charles Glenn. Music was composed and conducted by Von Dexter. The Saint, based on characters created by Leslie Charteris, is a James L. Safier production and is directed by Helen Mack. Vincent Price is soon to be seen in the Universal International picture Curtain Call at Cactus Creek. And all you Saint fans will be glad to know that the Saint comic books are on sale at all newsstands. Your announcer is Don Sandler. Next, it's Sam Spade, then Summer Symphony on NBC.
The doctors we heard from had this to say.
A laxative should be effective, gentle, close to natural acting. A medicine that can be used with complete confidence.
Now, X-Lax has been popular with many doctors and millions of people over the years because chocolated X-Lax is effective. Overnight, it helps you toward your normal regularity. X-Lax is so gentle, so close to natural acting, there's no upset. That's why many doctors and millions of people use X-Lax with complete confidence. X-Lax, the laxative that helps you toward your normal regularity, gently, overnight.
Keep it tuned right here to HOJO Radio for more classic old-time radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Granite Furniture Company with stores in Sugar House, Murray, and Provo presents... The Hall of Fantasy. Welcome to the Hall of Fantasy. Welcome to the series of radio dramas dedicated to the supernatural, the unusual, and the unknown. Come with me, my friends. We shall descend to the world of the unknown and forbidden, down to the depths where the veil of time is lifted and the supernatural reigns as king. Come with me and listen to the tale of The Judge's House. The Granite Furniture Company brings you the Hall of Fantasy. Listen now to original tales of the imagination and some of the classics of the supernatural as we take you down the corridors of the Hall of Fantasy to the mysterious realms of the unknown. These are stories of eerie and fantastic thrills brought to you by your friends at the Granite Furniture Stores. And now for tonight's story, a radio adaptation by Bob Olson of Bram Stoker's story entitled The Judge's House. Justice, peace. How can we be certain of either when hatred burns unchecked, even beyond the grave? I am Malcolm Lane. This is my story. I want to tell it to you while there is still time. I watched them carry the parcels into the judge's house. Mrs. Whittam, whom I had engaged as my housekeeper for the next 3 months, was directing the activity. She was an amusing little character. I had to promise that she wouldn't have to stay in the house after it began to get dark. The upholsterer's man was coming up the pathway with a cot and a new bed. Mrs. Whittam had insisted on this one new piece of furniture because, as she put it,
a bed that just hasn't been aired for 50 years is not fit for young bodies to lie on.
And she was right, of course. But my head was too full of plans for study to worry about such details as my living quarters. As for the tales about the harsh old judge whose house this had once been, I had only a mild enthusiasm. He must have been quite a character, though, to make an entire village fear him and his house, even 50 years after his death. Mrs. Whittam was positive there was something about the old place, though she nor anyone else quite knew what it was. The consensus of opinion, however, was that they would not take all the money in Drinwater's bank to spend an hour here alone. But Mrs. Whittam startled me with a very rational statement.
The place is full of rats, and rats is bogies, just the same as bogies is rats.
That explanation suited me very well, for as I said once before, my head was full of plans to study. Examinations were coming up soon, and I had paid 3 months' rent on this old house, so that I would be assured of peace and quiet while I prepared for them. The only mysteries I'm interested in, Mrs. Whittam, are those of harmonical progression and elliptical functions. They're mystery enough for me.
Not that you won't find company here, Mr. Lane. I've already cleaned all of 50 years of dust from everything. Oh, but that waistcoat in this room must be hundreds of years old. And you'll find creaky doors aplenty, and loose flats all over, ready to flap in the wind, and bureau drawers that stick and then fall down in the middle of the night.
And don't forget the rats.
No, Mr. Lane, don't forget the rats.
The workmen were all gone, and but for the busy little figure of the housekeeper, I was alone. It was for this that I'd taken the tiresome ride to Benchurch, a remote little town that had all the attractions of a desert. It was drawing close to evening as Mrs. Whittam was unpacking the last hamper, and I could see that she was beginning to cast worried glances about as the shadows began to creep into the corners of this huge dining room I'd chosen for my living quarters. Oh, you may go now, Mrs. Whittam. It's getting dark in here, and I'm sure you're anxious to get home. You've done well with this old room. I shall reward you with complete possession of this house for the last 2 months of my tenancy. 3 or 4 weeks will be all I'll need, and I'd hate to see that rent money go to waste.
Thank you kindly, sir, but I wouldn't stay here
I know, for all the money in Drinkwater's bank. I'm really grateful, for I do want to be alone. And if you were not so opposed to it, I might be tempted to accept your company.
Ah, you young gentlemen. You fear nothing, and I'm certain you'll get all the solitude you need here. Good night, sir. You'll find your supper beneath the cloth.
Good night, Mrs. Whittam. Oh, yes, this was comfort. After I'd finished my supper, I cleared the great oak table and got my books out. Then when I'd put fresh wood in the fire and trimmed the lamp, I sat down to a spell of hard work. I hardly looked up from my books until nearly 11 o'clock, at which time I threw some more wood in the fire and indulged in one of my most deeply ingrained habits, that of tea drinking. I thoroughly enjoyed tea and drank it this night with a sense of real enjoyment. Soon the new wood I had thrown on the fire began to crackle, and the new flame threw quaint shadows about the great old room. And as I sat there sipping my tea, I reveled in a complete sense of isolation. Then, for the first time, I noticed the noise of the rats. Strange, I hadn't heard them before. Maybe they're just getting used to me. But they're bold enough now. How busy they were. What strange noises they made. Up and down the old wainscot they went, and over the ceiling and over the floor, racing and gnawing and scratching. There were so many of them that I'd have sworn that if they set their strength to it, they could have carried the house away. I had a smile when I recalled the words of Mrs. Whittam. Rats is bogies, and bogies is rats. The stimulation of the tea gave me a sense of security, and I grabbed the lamp to take a good look around the room. Strange why such a beautiful old place should have been so neglected for all this time. The carving on the oak panels of the wainscot was fine indeed, and that around the doors and windows was of rare merit. I saw some old pictures on the wall next to the fireplace, but they were coated so thick with dust that I couldn't distinguish any of their details, even though I did hold the lamp high above my head. Now and then I would get a quick start as the light fell upon the old walls and disclosed the glittering eyes of a rat as he would stick his face out of a hole or a crack. In an instant, it would disappear with a squeak and a scamper. Another object that struck me as odd was the rope of a great alarm bell that hung in the corner of the room on the right-hand side of the fireplace. After my inspection tour, I sat in a high-backed chair that was near the fireplace and sipped from another cup of tea. For a while, I thought the noise of the rats would drive me to distraction, but that eased off and I became accustomed to it, the same as a person gets used to the roar of water when he camps beside a stream. Soon I was so engrossed in a mathematical problem that I forgot everything else in the world. But since the solution to the problem came stubbornly, I looked up and was surprised to see that the fire had fallen to a dull red glow. There was a sudden quiet, the strange hush that comes in the hour before dawn. I became aware for the first time that the noise of the rats had ceased. When it had happened, I couldn't remember. But something instinctive told me that it had been in the last few moments, and that it had been sudden. I looked up, and what I saw was a most amazing thing. For there on the high-backed chair sat an enormous rat staring at me through deadly, malignant eyes. I tried to frighten it away, but it didn't stir. I made a motion as if to throw something at it. But it only bared its teeth angrily, and its cruel eyes shone all the more bright. I'd grabbed the poker from the hearth and was going to kill the creature. But before I could reach it, that enormous rat jumped to the floor, and with a squeak that sounded like a consummate hit of the whole world, scampered up the rope of the alarm bell and disappeared in the darkness. Then, as if by a signal, the noise of the other rat started all over again. By this time, I gave up working my problem and bartered it for some much-needed sleep. It was Mrs. Whittam who woke me as she came in to make up the room.
You're much paler this morning, Mr. Lane.
I am?
You shouldn't stay up so late with your work. It isn't good for you. But tell me, how did you spend the night? I was certainly glad to see you.
Alive? Oh, yes, that was quite all right, Mrs. Whittam. The something didn't worry me too much. But the rats certainly held themselves a camp meeting. There was one that sat up in that chair by the fireplace and wouldn't go away until I chased him with a poker. It was the biggest old devil I've ever seen.
Old devil? Maybe it was the old devil.
I only meant
Never
that...
you mind, sir. Many a true word is spoken in jest.
Well, pardon me, Mrs. Whittam. I didn't mean to be rude. But the thought of the old devil himself sitting in that chair last night struck me as being rather funny.
And it's a good thing you can laugh. But all the same, if I were to spend the night here tonight, oh, heaven forbid, I'd make sure I was ready for him.
That night, the rats put on an earlier show, for their scamperings began almost as soon as I'd finished with my supper. The cursed creatures seemed to get on my nerves, and I sat there and puffed my pipe. While they squealed and scratched and gnawed. They seemed to grow bolder by the minute. By now they were coming to the chinks and cracks in the wall until their eyes shone like miniature lamps when the firelight struck them. They'd even make bold sallies under the floor, and I'd have to frighten them away by pounding on the table with my fist. That was how I passed the early part of that night. Despite it, I became more and more engrossed in my studies. And then, a strange sensation coursed through me. For there it was again. Instinctively, I grabbed the handiest object I could find, a book, and flung it at the baleful little beast. But the book was too hastily aimed, and the huge rat didn't stir. So once again, I went into the poker routine. And once again, it put up the rope of the alarm bell. I tried to follow its flight more closely this time, but before I could see where it went, it had been swallowed up in the shadows. And just as it had happened last night, as soon as the big rat had gone, the others resumed their activity. I looked at my watch and found that it was very close to midnight. I built up the fire and brewed myself a pot of tea. I tried to get back to my work, but I suddenly became curious to know where the rat had disappeared to. For I was certain that tomorrow I would most likely get myself a rat trap. I gathered all my books about me and put them in a handy position for throwing. Then I took the rope of the alarm bell and placed the end of it upon the table underneath the lamp, where there would be plenty of light on it. As I picked up the rope, I was amazed how pliable and strong it was. Ideal, I thought, for hanging a man. Soon my preparations were complete. Now this time, my friend, I intend to learn more about you. Once again, I was hard at my work, and the noise of the rats was forgotten. But just as suddenly as before, I was aroused by that same sense of startling silence. I was conscious of a slight movement in the rope at my elbow. Without stirring, I checked to see if my pile of books was at easy reach. It was. I cast my glance up the rope just in time to see the huge rat drop from it to the back of a high oak chair. I grabbed a book and hurled it. With amazing agility, the rat sprang aside and dodged it. I threw a second and a third, but each time it managed to dodge my battery. It was almost funny, almost. Finally, when I was down to the last book, I took careful aim, and as I did this, the rat squeaked and seemed afraid. I let the book fly. It struck the rat with a resounding thud. It gave out a shrill, terrified shriek, and running up the back of the chair, made a desperate leap, and with the speed of a bolt of lightning ran up the bell rope. The lamp rocked with a strain, but it didn't topple. Then I saw the rat leap to a molding and disappear through the hole in one of the big pictures that hung on the wall. I made a mental note of the exact spot. Third picture from the fireplace, huh? I'll remember that and have Mrs. Whittem scrub it clean the first thing tomorrow morning. I began to pick up the books I had thrown at the rat. As I did so, I took a good look at their titles. Conic sections. Mr. Rat doesn't seem to mind that. Neither did he this one on cycloidal oscillations. And this one on thermodynamics he dodged very neatly. Oh. Here's the book that got him. As I looked at the title of the book that had finally hit the huge rat, I could feel a pallor spread across my face. For the title of that book was The Holy Bible.
You are listening to The Judge's House by Bram Stoker in tonight's journey down the corridors of the Hall of Fantasy, brought to you by your friends at the Granite Furniture Company with stores in Sugar House, Murray, and Provo. And now back to the story by Bram Stoker entitled The Judge's House.
Mr. Lane, this is Dr. Thornhill.
Dr. Thornhill, are you ill, Mrs. Whittem?
Your pardon, Mr. Lane, but Mrs. Whittem wanted me to come up here and have a talk with you.
A talk? Well, in that case, let me prepare some tea for you.
Oh, please don't. That's one of the things I came to talk to you about. Mrs. Whittem thinks you drink more strong tea than is good for you. She tells me also that you put in quite long hours at your studies.
Mrs. Whittem, I engaged you as a housekeeper, not as a guardian.
Oh, please, Mr. Lane, I didn't
As a matter of fact, Lane, she didn't mean to have me talk to you at all. That was my idea.
I see. Well, now that you're here, what do you want me to do?
Leave this house.
Well, even if I could see the reason for it, I doubt if I would. But as for the tea and late hours, I might be able to give them up. Would it make you feel any better, Mrs. Whittem, if I promised not to study after 1 o'clock tonight?
Yes, if you promise.
Then I promise.
I advise you, not as a total stranger to your problem, Mr. Lane. I was a student once myself, you know.
Of course. Shall we shake on it, Doctor?
Fine.
Now, if you will, I wish you'd tell me what you've noticed in this house.
Well, it's just as I've told Mrs. Whittam. I'd be working late, and I'd suddenly be... And when I looked to see which book it was that had struck the rat, the devil, as Mrs. Whittam calls it, I was amazed to find that it was the Holy Bible. There now. Please, Mrs. Whittam, you're not hurt.
Now, Mr. Lane, you say the rat always went up the rope of that alarm bell?
Always.
I suppose you know what that rope is?
No, why?
It's the very rope the hangman used to execute the victims of the judge's hatred.
Oh, no.
Now, Mrs. Whittam, there's no reason to get upset about this, really.
Doctor, you shouldn't put such horrible thoughts in poor Mr. Lane's mind. He has enough to unseat him already.
I did it for a definite purpose. Mr. Lane, I want you to fix your attention on that rope. Now, I know you're sound of mind and body, but hard work and long hours and this suggestion of the devil, especially in this lonely old house, can do things to the mind. Now, I don't mean this as any offense, but if you should find yourself having, well, hallucinations or some unexplainable fright, I want you to pull that rope. It'll give us some kind of a warning in the village. We might be able to be of some help.
Well, thank you, Doctor. I'll do that. I may get stuck with a problem.
Fine. Goodbye, Mr. Lane, and, well, I wouldn't be surprised if Benchurch hears the alarm bell from the judge's house tonight.
I didn't quite share the doctor's views, but just the same, I caught myself staring at the bell rope. The more I stared, the more restless I became, and every now and then my mind would conjure up the vision of some wretched victim dangling from the end of it. But that line of thinking would have me out of my mind in a hurry. Mrs. Whittam had made the place neat and homey. I wandered over to one of the big windows and flung it open. I was surprised to find that a sharp wind had come up, a very cold wind for April. It was more than a sharp wind, really, for it was carrying a storm. Little drops of rain began to pelt me in the face until soon it became a thing of fury. I bolted the shutters and built up the fire with some fresh wood. I was uncomfortable and was only vaguely conscious of the reason. Suddenly I knew. The rats were quiet tonight. It gave me a slight case of the jitters, and I instinctively took a hasty glance at the bell rope. The rope was quite still. I wanted a hot cup of tea, but remembering my promise to Mrs. Whittam, I desisted. Instead, I sat at the great oak table and opened my books. Soon I had started a problem, and the noise of the rats began. For the first time since I had taken up residence in the judge's house, I was glad to hear those rats. I had worked for an hour or so and suddenly became conscious of the furious storm outside. I was thankful that I didn't have to be out of it. The faint movement of the bell rope compelled me to walk over to it and take it in my hand. I saw nothing. It had only been the wind, and the rope was rising and falling gently with each new gust of air, which caused the bell to sway back and forth a little. That rope had a deadly fascination to it. I wondered why the judge wanted such a grisly memento in his house. The thought of it sent a chill through me. Or was it a thought? Didn't I sense a tremor along that rope? I couldn't be sure, but at that moment I remembered the picture. I walked over to the table, picked up the lamp, and approached the spot where I'd seen the picture the night before. I counted out the pictures until I came to the third one from the fireplace. Even before I raised the lamp, I could see that Mrs. Whittam had washed it clean as I had told her to do. Then what I saw gave me such a start that I nearly dropped the lamp. My knees almost gave way beneath me, and I was conscious of huge beads of perspiration that were forming on my forehead. Just looking at it made me tremble like an aspen leaf. The picture seemed fairly to leap out at me. For there, dressed in his scarlet and ermine robes with the judge, with his merciless, evil face, his sensual mouth, and a nose that was shaped like the beak of a bird of prey. His face had a cadaverous culling. It was a ghastly picture. But it was the eyes that really made me go cold. For those eyes were... And heaven help me if I'm going mad. Those eyes were the exact duplicate of the evil eyes of the great rat. The picture had been painted in this very room. I began to compare the two, and as my eyes swept the room, they were suddenly riveted to the judge's chair. For there, with the rope hanging behind it, sat the huge rat with the judge's eyes, and the hatefulness was now intensified with a fiendish leer. Never did the wind howl so. This had to stop. I wanted some tea, but I didn't take any. The doctor had been quite right. My nerves must have been getting drawn pretty taut. Strange, too, because I never was in better health. Well, no tea. We'll substitute some brandy. Let's see. I had a stiff glass of the brandy and went back to work. The rats were at it again, and I was glad to hear them, for they had become a sort of symbol of normalcy. The storm raised such a fury that I was unaware of anything else. But once, during a sharp, silent lull, I heard another sound, a faint squeaking noise. I listened for it again and soon detected it. It was coming from the corner of the room where the bell rope hung. At first I thought it was just the motion of the rope in the storm, but I looked up and saw something in the dim light that made me all the more positive that I was going mad. For there was the great rat, clinging to the rope and gnawing at it. I could see the lighter coloring where the bare strands were exposed. Just then the rat finished the job, and the rope fell to the floor with a thud. For a moment, the huge rat just hung there like a tassel. It was then that I realized what had happened. My only contact with the village was now gone. I don't know why, but I rushed to the lamp on the table, snatched off the shade, and ran over to the picture of the judge. A chill of horror went through me. But I think I must have expected what I saw. It seemed more like a confirmation than a shock. For there in the center of the picture was a great patch of brown canvas, as clean and as fresh as the day it had been drawn over the frame. And where the portrait of the judge himself had been, there was nothing. I heard a sound behind me. When I turned around, I really got the palsy. I suddenly became incapable of movement. I could hardly think. I had been prepared to see most anything, but what was there? For there in the judge's high-backed chair, with his black cap in his hand, his ermine robes fixed about him with a smile of triumph twisting his cruel mouth, was the judge himself. As the clock struck the hour, it seemed to beat the blood right out of my heart. At the 12th stroke, the judge placed the black cap on his head and walked deliberately over to the place where the piece of bell rope lay in a heap on the floor. He picked it up and drew it through his hands as one would a valuable fur pelt. Then he began to knot one end, fashioning it into a noose. He tightened it and tested it with his foot. All this time he never took his horribly cruel eyes from my face. I began to feel trapped. For some reason I could barely move. I could only watch as he started to move along the table toward me. Then with a quick movement he threw the noose at me, as if to ensnare me in it. It missed. He raised it again, never once taking those hateful eyes from my face. Once more the noose came, flying toward me. Once more, with some last ounce of strength, I dodged it. The room seemed flooded with light. The lamp had suddenly flared up high. I looked about the room and was astonished to see the shiny little eyes of the rats as they peered out the cracks and chinks in the wall. I looked up at the bell rope, my lost and last hope of warning the village. It was covered with the little fellows. Funny thing, but those rats were the only thing that gave me even the slightest sense of comfort. For as the rats clambered along the bell rope, the bell itself began to sway, and I heard a tiny sound, yes, very tiny, as the clamper touched the bell itself. It was only a whisper of a sound, but it would grow louder in time. Or would it? At this sound, the judge looked up, and a scowl of terrible anger came to his face. His eyes were like red-hot coals, and he stamped his foot so that the house seemed to shake. The rats kept running up and down the rope as if they were conscious that it was a race against time. Now the judge was approaching me with a noose in his hand. As he came closer, there seemed to be something paralyzing in his presence, and I stood as rigid as a corpse. Suddenly, I felt the judge's icy fingers against the skin of my throat. He was adjusting the rope about my neck. Then he picked me up and stood me on the high oak chair and put his hand on the swaying end of the bell rope. As he raised his hand, I was conscious of my little rat friends fleeing through the hole in the ceiling. They were my last hope. I stood there on the chair and couldn't move a muscle. Now that my last hope seemed gone, I wanted the judge to hurry and get it over with. Soon he tied the end of the rope just about my neck to the dangling end of the bell rope. Then he jumped down to the floor and looked at me with those eyes that hated me so. The smile of diabolical triumph seemed to wreathe him in horror. I began to wonder about hangings. I wondered how long it would take, whether the doctor in the village could possibly reach me in time. For I knew that I would soon be sounding the alarm bell. I even wondered what kind of a shadow I'd cast on the wall as I dangled from the end of the rope in this grotesque candlelight. But I didn't wonder for long, because suddenly the judge grabbed the chair on which I was standing with a sudden movement, jerked it out from under me.
So runs the tale of The Judge's House. Remember to join us next week at the same time for another journey down the corridors of the Hall of Fantasy.
Tonight's program was adapted from the story by Bram Stoker entitled The Judge's House. Heard in tonight's program were Dick Thorne as Malcolm Lane, Beth Calder as Mrs. Woodham, and Mel Wyman as the Doctor. Musical background was provided by Earl Donaldson.
Avoid 5 o'clock shadow.
Use gem blades. Use gem blades.
Stay tuned to HOJO Radio.
The NBC Theater presents Screen Directors Guild Assignment. Production, The Exile. Director, Max Opels. Star, Douglas Fairbanks, Jr. This is the Screen Directors Guild presentation of the adventurous legend, The Exile, starring Douglas Fairbanks and introducing the director of the film, Max Opels. The statement that art acknowledges no national boundaries is particularly true of the motion picture medium. Thus it is with a great deal of pleasure that the NBC Theater welcomes tonight a director who received his film education in Germany and France. In him is exemplified the rare combination of talents which are the starting point of the screen director's art. Among his American motion pictures are Letter from an Unknown Woman, the soon-to-be-released production Caught, and, of course, tonight's story, The Exile. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Max Opels.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very pleased and flattered that tonight the Screen Directors Guild presents The Exile, with Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in the screen role of Charles II and Jeanette Waldo as Kay. For many years I have had an idea about how history should be presented in the dramatic form, and The Exile is that idea come to life. For me, over centuries, parts of history take on the flavor of an old ballad, singing the deeds of brave men who lived in a kind of fairyland. But if such a quality is to be placed upon the screen, it requires a special sort of actor. He must possess a certain flair, a certain something I can call only Fairbanksism. Fairbanksism is a very vital substance in movie making, kind of glorious energy which escapes from most of us when we lose the dreams of childhood. Well, fortunately for this idea, Douglas Fairbanks came to me one day and he said,
Max, I want you to direct a picture for me. Listen, I'll tell you the story. The story begins on a stormy night in the year of our Lord, 1660. It's night, a storm with thunder and lightning, a slashing downpour of rain, and a horseman. A horseman fleeing across Holland in the middle of the 17th century. The fate not only of a nation is riding tonight, but of a way of life. A horseman riding the whole fugitive night. And the name of that horseman, Charles II, exiled King of England. In the bright morning, the exiled king is at his ease, pretending to sleep on the bank of a Dutch canal. Pretending to sleep because an enemy, a mounted man in a black cloak and a round hat, with ascetic, suspicious eyes, is riding slowly toward him. Stops without dismounting.
Yo, peasant.
Huh? Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Greetings in God's grace.
Greetings, greetings.
And have you seen aught of a man about 2 yards high with black hair and impudent manner?
Excuse me, but I am a stranger here, far from home, and enjoying the hospitality of these Netherlands.
English?
Indeed.
Far from home? For what reason?
My health.
God heal you, sir. And have you seen aught of the fugitive English King Charles Stuart, banished from England and hiding here?
What? That scoundrel among men, that lazy, self-indulgent wastrel of... Imagine England in the hands of a man like that, eh?
Not if Cromwell's men discover him. You have not seen him?
Is he about?
We found his horse wandering exhausted in the wood.
Knave, tyrant, tormentor of dumb beasts. Well, speed you on your search, sir. And may you and Charles II come face to face, one day not far off.
We shall. Farewell. Farewell. Health and a long life, countrymen.
My thanks, countrymen. My thanks. I must be on the move. But where? Where?
You there on the bank.
Oh. Ahoy, canal boat.
Can you help me? I can't keep this barge in midstream.
Keep it headed straight. I'll jump aboard from the bridge.
Well, hurry.
Plenty of time now, lass. Plenty of time. Now, steady as you go. Steady.
I'm trying.
All right. Now. Quick, hand me the pole.
Here.
Good.
Hold it against your shoulder.
I see.
And push.
I have it now.
Oh, that's so much better. Jan would have been furious if I had grounded his barge.
Jan? Who's Jan?
He owns the boat. He lets me use it if I haul his cargo.
Is he your master?
My cousin.
Healthy?
Very.
Muscular?
A huge man.
And he lets you do his heavy work, does he?
He owns the farm next to mine, and he owns the debts on my farm and my inn. 3,000 guilders I owe Jan.
You have a farm and an inn, eh?
Ever since my father died.
Tell me, this farm and inn of yours, is it close?
Not yet. I must anchor another night.
Good.
Why?
I find leisurely travel sometimes very soothing. And you need help with this barge in swollen waters, don't you?
Yes.
Good. Well, I come from a seafaring nation. Consider me your crew. How sweet the moonlight sleeps upon that bank. Here will we sit and let the sounds of music creep in our ears.
How pretty. What is it?
William Shakespeare, a poet who had his day, 50 years ago. Soon forgotten, but while he sang right beautifully.
Oh. Charles.
Hmm?
I was just trying the name.
Try it again.
Charles.
Again.
Wasn't that your English king named
Scottish king.
Oh.
Charles Stuart, and a Scot.
They say he was a most scandalous man.
A little rakish at times, but not too bad.
They say it is dangerous for an Englishman to side with the exiled king in these times.
Well, it's a little inconvenient at times, yes. But that is why I wonder, Mistress Katie, if I could hide with you for a while.
How?
Why, I could work on your farm and at the inn. I should ask nothing in return but shelter and board. Now tell me, how would you say, could you use an extra man in Dutch?
Kunt u een extra man gebruiken?
Could you an extra man...
Gebruiken.
Well, could you?
Yes.
Good. Good.
How sweet the moonlight sleeps upon that bank. It is very lovely.
You are lovely.
Are you sure he will be soon forgotten, this Willem Shakespeare? If he says such true and lovely things?
For weeks, the exiled king works at Katie's farm and inn, willingly, even gladly, performing the most menial labor. Only his Cavalier friends in The Hague have been told of his new hideout. And now, one day again, history rides the Dutch lowlands.
Your Majesty! Your Majesty!
Hyde, old friend.
I have news from England.
Come. Hyde, you might have been followed here.
Aye, but the news warrants great risks.
Oh?
Your Majesty, General Monk has declared for us.
General Monk? On our side?
Even now, his army marches against the Roundheads. England is split into more factions than ever. And General Monk thinks the country would rally to your side if you returned now.
Returned? Now?
At once, Your Majesty.
I'm sorry, Hyde. No.
But with Monk on our side now, how can we fail?
I said no, Hyde.
These men are hungry. They yearn for home and family.
I know.
10 long years in exile,
I know
Majesty.
that, too. Bitterly enough.
Is this a time to show hesitation and fear and doubt?
Fear? Who speaks of fear? Great heaven, man, for 2 years after Cromwell killed the king, my father, I fought and met defeat, wasting the blood of men who trusted in me. And all because our hopes were false. False! I was told the 3 kingdoms would rise behind me to a man until I faced the enemy. And I was left alone with a handful of men. Brave men, but beaten beforehand and doomed in advance by false hopes. False hopes, false starts, false promises. And always the blood of free men uselessly forfeit. Now, I'll go home, Hyde, when I am freely called by all my countrymen. And not before.
The men are ready now. They call you leader, king.
King. What good's a king who's only king to some?
So be it, sire. There is other news, not quite so favorable. Colonel Ingram is in Holland.
Ingram? Here? That is evil news.
If there is one man in Christendom I fear above another, that man is the executioner Ingram. Oh.
Describe the man to me so I'll know him if we meet.
Think of the face and habit of death, and that is Ingram. His skin is parched and yellow like a dead man's. His lips are a straight white gash across his face, and his eyes burn with a light like grave worms in their bony sockets.
A consecrated man.
A fanatic, fearing nothing.
Naturally, what has death himself to fear?
Charles, if you will not return to England, then flee.
Flee Ingram? I think not, Hyde.
No, otherwise the cause is lost, Your Majesty.
Flee where? Holland is overrun with Cromwell's spies and swordsmen. Besides...
Charles, where are you?
Besides, I like it here, in spite of Ingram.
You are listening to the Screen Directors Guild production of The Exile, starring Douglas Fairbanks, and introducing the director of the film, Max Opels.
Two more weeks of idyllic pastoral life on Katie's farm. Then one afternoon, Charles is fishing in the canal, for if a cat may look at a king, then a king may look for a catfish. Unheard by him, a figure dressed in tarnished regal clothing moves up behind him, leading a moth-eaten horse.
Are you a Hollander?
Huh?
A Dutchman?
Huh? Oh, good day, sir, good day.
I'm told there is an inn hereabouts.
An excellent inn, my lord. I know, for I work there.
Ah, but you're English.
True.
What is your capacity at the inn?
I have been promoted to overseer.
Excellent. A fellow exile and an overseer. Tell me, what costs bed and board to a fellow countryman, you know?
2 guilders a night.
2 guilders. Suppose I tell you in all confidence, and that when I have spent the night at your inn, you may charge the next guest 20 guilders without protest, for you may tell him honestly, a king slept in this inn. Eh?
King? Which king?
Look at me. And though these English garments be the worse for hardship, and though my lineaments be weathered and war-beaten, say if you can that you do not recognize your king, Englishman.
Not Charles Stuart.
And the wandering, exiled Stuart. Yes.
Oh, sire.
Arise and lead me to your inn. You and your employer shall be rewarded handsomely someday.
Oh, come in, Charles. Did you finally get His Majesty, our guest, to sleep?
Finally, yes.
He is very indiscreet for a fugitive, Charles.
Very indiscreet.
Letting all those strangers in the tap room know who he is, but swearing us to secrecy.
I tell you, he'll bring Cromwell's Roundheads down on us looking for him.
Charles, he worries me. He told me he wants you with him when he invades England again.
Oh? And when may this be?
He said soon.
Uh-huh.
It's all so stupid and wasteful. There are far better things to do than quarrel over politics and kingdoms and all that rubbish.
We disagree there, Katie. England is a nation of some 7 million people who depend on their leaders. We owe them some sort of debt of...
Debt nonsense. You men will always find some excuse to start fighting and to be very proper about it. Debt indeed. Now, I have a debt, a real one that you can count and that means something to plain people. 3,000 guilders.
I know.
I gave you a job and shelter when you wanted it, and now you plan to leave me for that beerhead.
If my king calls me, Katie,
You will desert me?
I will follow my call.
Then I will not need your services any longer, Charles.
I'm dismissed?
Yes.
Now?
I will not spend my time and my money teaching you farming and management of an inn and see it all go to waste over politics. It is best you leave before...
Before what?
Before I come to depend on you too much.
I understand. I'll leave in the morning. Good night, Mistress Katie.
Come in, please.
Ingram.
The face and the habit of death, and that is Ingram. Like a dead man's, his mouth a straight white gash across his face. And that is Ingram.
Ingram?
Do you work at this inn?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
I've seen you before. Somewhere.
It may be.
Tell me plainly, of which party are you?
Party?
The parliamentary party?
You mean the Roundheads?
Do you call them so?
Candidly, sir, if I ever see my home again, I shall belong to no party. I have recently renounced politics.
Then perhaps I can trust a man without any convictions.
I suppose that depends on the trust.
I am looking for a man whose face I have not seen in many years. Rumor places him hereabout. His name is Charles Stuart.
You refer to the king?
We call him Charles Stuart.
What? Who down there takes the name of his sovereign, Charles II of England?
The fool, the pompous idiot.
And what is this? A despised Roundhead in the royal presence? Bear your head. Bear your head, I say.
I remove my hat only in the presence of God and in the presence of death.
Sire, this gentleman here is looking for an uncrowned king. The gentleman's name is Ingram.
The executioner?
Your servant, sire.
retire to my room.
Wait.
I'm tired.
You shall sleep soundly.
Oh, no.
Draw your sword.
No. Please, I'm not really the king. I'm not the king. I'm an actor. Dick Pinner. Pinner's my name.
Draw your sword.
But I'm just an actor. A poor, out-of-work actor. Believe me, please, believe me.
Enough, Ingram. The jest is over.
What jest?
Oh, can't you tell a knave from a king? Look at me, Ingram. Look at me. Spare this craven fool clowning for his keep and look at me. Surely you know a Stuart when you see one. Look at me.
To be sure. Stuart. To be sure.
Pinner, slide me your sword, quick. Thanks. Ah, see how it is to deal with an armed Stuart for a change.
Charles Stuart, I charge you to surrender. You are trapped, Stuart. My men surround the inn.
In my service at this inn, I learned a famous recipe for rabbit pie. It goes like this. First, catch the rabbit. Hey. And keep a firm grip on your sword. Remember it, Ingram. Long live the king!
Robbins, Thurlow, all of you! Colonel Ingram, after him, men, dead or alive! Wait here, Robbins.
Who are you? What is the meaning of this?
You are the mistress of this inn.
What if I am?
Where is he?
Who?
The Englishman who works here.
If you mean Charles, my retainer.
Where is he?
What right have you to invade a Dutch house and hound a hard-working man to death because he is loyal to his king?
Don't play the fool with me. He is the king.
Charles? The king?
It's plain you're innocent in that matter. But mind you, don't shield the man if you would remain innocent in the matter.
What now, Colonel Ingram?
It's plain from her manner that Stuart's more than handyman to her. Watch her. She'll lead us to him.
Katie, you shouldn't have come here. They'll not admit to search around this windmill.
Charles, that man with the face like a skull, he told me who you are.
Then let me tell you in a few moments what I wanted to spend my life telling you. I love you, Katie. Above all things, deeply and gratefully.
Gratefully? Why?
Because in your love, I've found a few precious moments of shelter. I've learned from you another life than fear and flight and battlefields and parliaments. If I should die, remember that I loved you. Not as King Charles, doubtful monarch of a restless realm, but as Charles, master of his own soul.
Charles, look, they're coming.
I knew it. Quick, inside the mill. Here. Against this wall. Hide. Behind these sacks.
Robbins, guard the door. Thurlow around the back. I'll meet the Stuart single-handed.
He's coming in alone.
God be with you, Charles.
Charles Stuart. Stuart, how will you die? I give you this chance to face me alone, for I would relish killing you with my own blade. Stuart!
I am here. Defend yourself, killer.
Rejoice, O England. Thy deliverance is at hand.
Oh, well spoken, sir. You write your own epitaph.
We'll finish this alone, you and I.
You'll die for that vanity.
I'll live for my beliefs.
And I for mine. Back, Inquisitor. What? You give ground to a Stuart? Back, I say, back!
Rusty.
Rust, Ingram, is the color of old blood. Your crimes are upon you, killer. Back! Up the stairs!
Blasphemer!
Back!
Heretic!
Back, I say, up!
Ungodly Stuart!
Why? Because I think God made men free?
Die!
Another time, Ingram. Not just now.
Die! You must die if England is to live.
Rot. England will live no matter what happens to either of us. On guard.
Killer!
It's over, Katie.
Thank heaven. Charles, listen. Outside.
There's trouble. And surely Roundheads do not make trouble for other Roundheads.
Your Majesty! Your Majesty!
Hide! How? What?
Are you all right?
Yes, I'm all right.
Oh, thank God you're safe. I bring great news, great news.
Oh?
A new free parliament has, on behalf of all the people and all beliefs, asked you to return to England as their king.
No. They accept my terms. Religious freedom for all and all the rest.
Everything.
Will you leave me alone with Katie for a moment?
Your Majesty.
Katie.
I know, Charles.
What shall I do?
What your heart tells you, Your Majesty.
Charles, no, Charles.
Your Majesty. You are my Charles, but you're their king. And they are so many, and I am one.
But if that one is all...
Your people are hurt. There are many wounds for you to tend.
But what will happen to you?
I will have many things to do. I'm going to plant more tulips in the west field bordering the road, and my inn will be famous now. And I shall pay my debts.
Katie.
And my memories will be my greatest fortune.
And mine. And all these memories I'll put like rose leaves in a box. And I shall love you always, beyond measure, beyond proof, beyond battle and the folly of nations, beyond life, where we shall meet again.
Charles, England is at the door.
Coming. Goodbye, Katie. One kiss.
To last forever.
Coming. Coming.
Gentlemen, the king.
And I shall love you always, beyond measure, beyond proof, beyond battle and the folly of nations, beyond life, where we shall meet again.
The NBC Theater has presented the Screen Directors Guild production of The Exile, starring Douglas Fairbanks, with Janet Waldo, and introducing the director of the film, Max Opels. Next week, the NBC Theater brings you the world-famous screen director Alfred Hitchcock, introducing the delightful comedy Mr. and Mrs. Smith, with Robert Montgomery in the starring role. And now, here again are tonight's stars, Douglas Fairbanks and Janet Waldo, and screen director Max Opels.
Doug, this has been the way you told me the story?
Yes, and you said you'd direct the picture.
It must have been quite an experience for two such talented artists as yourselves to work together.
Yes, there's one of Mr. Fairbanks' accomplishments I shall never forget.
His acting?
Sure, and his practical jokes.
Why, Max, how can you say such a thing?
Well, one day I had a birthday, and they bring me such a beautiful cake on the set. But when I tried to cut it, a disaster.
Why?
It was made out of wood. Very embarrassing. But when Doc brought out a real cake, then we had a nice party.
Well, you see, we really loved you after all, Max.
So nice. And, but for your practical jokes, I forgave you when I saw your latest picture, The Fighting O'Flynn.
Did you like it, Max? I'm very glad. It's to be released next month, you know.
Yeah, I liked it very much. Miss Waldo, it's about a dashing, romantic Irishman who does the most amazing things you have ever seen, just to win the lady he loves.
It sounds wonderful. Mr. Fairbanks, I understand that besides starring in The Fighting of Flynn, you also wrote it and produced it.
Well, yes, that's right. But I hope you enjoy it too, Janet. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
And good night to you, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Janet Waldo, and Max Opie. Tonight's cast included Raymond Burr, Carl Harvard, Paul McVeigh, Joe Granby, and Lou Krugman. The Exile was adapted for radio by Milton Geiger, and original music was composed and conducted by Henry Russell. Production was under the supervision of Howard Wiley, your announcer, Frank Barton. The Exile was presented through the courtesy of the Fairbanks Company and of Universal International Pictures, now releasing Crisscross, starring Burt Lancaster, Yvonne DiCarlo, and Dan Duryea. Listen again next week when the NBC Theater presents
Screen Directors Guild Assignment. Production, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Director, Alfred Hitchcock. Star, Robert Montgomery.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
The kitchens of today can be more beautiful than 1949 because this year there's a better, brighter, self-polishing floor wax. It's 1949 Glow Coat. Yes, bright as it's always been, this year Glow Coat is brighter than ever, better than any. Try 1949 Glow Coat on your linoleum this week.
Keep it tuned right here to HOJO Radio for more classic old-time radio.
M-O-L-L-E. Mole, the brushless shaving cream with a special protective film that guards your face, presents the Mole Mystery Theater.
Tonight's Mole, the brushless shaving cream which puts face protection first, brings you another in the series of programs which puts mystery and excitement first. Each Tuesday night at this time, you hear one of the great mystery stories selected from either the famous classics or from the best of the moderns by Mr. Jeffrey Barnes. Mr. Barnes, who has made a lifelong study of mystery fiction, is a connoisseur of fine detective stories. Mr. Barnes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mole Mystery Theater. Tonight we bring you a tale of espionage in wartime Washington, set in the exciting days before the invasion of North Africa. It is based on a novel by Richard Powell, and it is called Death Talks Out of Turn. Now, before our Mole Mystery Theater play begins, may I remind you, the Japanese say, while the Germans say,
Ein amerikanisches Kriegsgeheimnis bedeutet 1000 tote Amerikaner.
In our language, they both mean one American war secret means 1,000 dead Americans. So if you know any military information, for instance, such as troop movements, keep it a mystery and help keep our boys alive. And now to our Mole Mystery presentation, Death Talks Out of Turn. Friends, I want you to meet Lieutenant Andy Blake, who is here in the studio to tell you his own story. Lieutenant Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. It was October 1942, and wartime Washington was quite restful until my wife, Arabella, arrived. I'd been commissioned in the Army several months before and had reported in Washington, leaving Arab behind to join me later. I thought that when Arab arrived, my troubles would be over, but I must have been nuts. 5 months of married life should have taught me better. Anytime Mrs. Arabella Blake wraps a guy in cotton wool, he better not strike a match, for it's likely to be gun cotton. Like most of Arab's acts, her arrival in Washington was unannounced. I was finishing up my work in the Pentagon building one evening, only half conscious that something was brushing the back of my neck.
Even if there are 8 girls to every man in Washington, Andy, when I kiss a man, I expect to get his attention.
Arab, where did you come from, darling?
I have a job in Washington as a secretary. And guess where? In the office of the chief of ordnance.
I'm not sure I like you working there. They've got too many things you want to shoot.
Oh, Andy, you're glad I'm here, aren't you?
Glad you're here. Why, gosh, when you came in, Oh, look, Arab, I never could say these things properly.
Oh, you need to be stirred up, Andy. You've been here 2 months, and you're still a first lieutenant. No citations, no ribbons, not even a badge for pistol marksmanship.
The way I handle guns, I'll get a badge and a military funeral at the same time. But meanwhile, we've got to find a place for you to stay.
Oh, I have a room already, Andy.
What?
It's not half as hard to find a room as they say.
There must be a catch somewhere. How did you get this room?
I heard somebody on a bus say that there was a vacancy at a place out on Northwest Cube Street. So I went there and I took it.
I didn't know people in Washington talked out loud about vacant rooms. I thought they whispered.
Well, I was sort of eavesdropping.
I suspect I won't approve of this.
Well, while I was eavesdropping on people talking on buses, I heard a man say, "We're having trouble renting that vacant room at 5797 Q Street. None of the girls have been exactly right."
Well, what's so suspicious about that remark?
Well, I didn't like the way the man said it.
What was he like?
Short and fat and, I think, bald. Gave me the creeps. Andy, I'm sure he's a spy.
Oh, I don't believe it for a minute, sweetheart. But I'm going to have a look at that room of yours.
The house where I live, Andy, with 16 other girls who all work for the government. How'd you like it?
I don't think I like it at all.
Well, maybe you're right. You know, before I rented the room, they asked me a lot of questions to see if my job was important enough. Wanted to know if I had any connections with people in the Army and Navy.
Come on, Arab. We're getting out of here fast. Now, don't get out of the car. You're not going back into that house.
Well, I've got to get my things. Anyway, if you won't help me investigate, I'll do it by myself.
Say, wait a minute. You can't do this to me, Arab.
Oh, I can't I? You just watch, Andy Blake.
I was still angry enough at Arab the following morning not to call her at her office. Oh, I had some vague idea of letting her suffer until she called me. But, like most of my other ideas about Arab, this one didn't work out either. I soon found out it was I who was apologizing to Arab.
Of course, you were wrong, Andy, dear.
Look, Arab, I wish you'd give this thing up. There probably aren't any spies at the house at all. And if there are, all we have to do is report it to my superior officer, Colonel Parker. Let the Army handle it. They're better equipped.
Oh, that's perfectly silly. Why bother them with this when we can check up and find out?
Yes, but...
Then the Army can step in and take over.
I don't want to be a hero. I just want to do my job in the Army and let it go at that.
Oh, but, Andy, we can do it together and have so much fun.
Arab, I tell you, I'm not going to get...
Oh, all right, Andy Blake. If you won't help me, I'm just going ahead and solve the whole thing myself. So there.
Go ahead, you dope. I'll call you up sometime.
Yes, do, Lieutenant. After all, we do have something in common. A marriage certificate, I believe.
The more I thought about the situation, the more worried I became about Arab. So that night, much against my better judgment, I drove over to Q Street and parked my car near the house where I could watch it. It was a quiet street, so it was doubly startling when suddenly a woman screamed from the direction of Arab's boarding house. Something shut the scream off fast, as though a hand was placed over the woman's mouth. I ran across the street and plunged into the garden. 50 feet away, a man was dodging behind a tree. I sprinted towards him. He was short and fat, but that was about all I could see. He turned suddenly and waited for me. Waited in an odd, crouched position, his fingers stroking the air in front of him almost like a pianist testing the keys. My memory groped for a picture I'd seen once. A picture done on rice paper. There had been a short, fat man in the same hunched position. In the background, the artist had painted a tiny white-capped mountain. But even as he moved toward me, still in this hunched position, a woman's voice came from a few feet away.
Stop at this moment. I am Mrs. Fielding, Lieutenant Blake. I own this house, and your pretty wife has been boarding with me for a week. I think you should beg the lieutenant's pardon, Mr. Jones.
I beg your pardon, Lieutenant. You came at me so fast, I failed to note your insignia.
A woman screamed. Was it you, Mrs. Fielding?
Something ran through the bushes. A rabbit, perhaps, or a cat. I am nervous.
Would you like me to see you into the house?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Oh, then, good night.
I've not apologized properly for my foolish actions, Lieutenant. But you are also very foolish. Never run at an enemy that way. Come more slowly. Look at my hands. I can break a small club with the edge of my palm. Can you do that, Lieutenant?
I wish I'd known that stuff when I was a kid in the Pine Tree Patrol. You see, we had little scout hatchets, and I was always chopping myself instead of the wood.
You do not understand. I was assuming that the club was the man's neck. Your mistake, Lieutenant, is hitting a man with a fist. The fist is broad. It spreads the impact over too much space.
I've been getting along all right with fists so far.
What do you think will happen when an American soldier has to fight a judo expert?
The American might shoot the Jap.
We will hope it turns out that way. I'm glad to have met you, Lieutenant Blake. My name is Jones.
Mr. Jones lives next door.
If you'll pardon me, Mrs. Fielding, I'll be running along now.
Good night, Lieutenant Blake.
Just remember my advice, Lieutenant. Be careful how you run at a man. Or better yet, don't run at him at all, and then you will be sure of being safe.
There was something about Mr. Jones I didn't like. I wanted to find out more about him. So I circled around the block, cut through a garden, and ended up at the back door of his house. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside and listened. There was no sound. Then I started my search using a flashlight. There was nothing downstairs, so I went up to the second floor and entered a huge study. I found a newspaper clipping there that had been torn out violently. The story was about a recent broadcast picked up by the FBI from a station inside Germany. A man calling himself Gustav Heinz had told the German people that if only Himmler and his Gestapo were kicked out, all of Germany's troubles would be over. I had heard of those broadcasts. We believed the stations to be backed by the German military leaders, the old Junkers. There was nothing else in the study, so I snapped off the flashlight and peered out of the window. I could barely see the house across the street. But as I watched, something stirred in the garden below. A figure was stealing toward Mrs. Fielding's house. The figure stepped across a starlit space, and I stopped breathing. The prowler was Arab. Well, I knew Mrs. Fielding and Jones were inside the house, and that if Arab was planning to eavesdrop again, they would be sure to catch her. I had to get her attention. My hand grabbed a straight wooden chair and slammed it through the window. I stuck my head in the opening and let out a yell. Suddenly, I heard a door slam downstairs. The fat man must have run out of the house next door the minute he heard the crash. I could picture him creeping up the stairs, feeling the air ahead of him with those clutching fingers. My best chance was to wait for him to make a noise. I pressed back against the wall of the room and waited. Somewhere in that house, death was moving toward me. My breathing was getting louder, like a guy in the last stages of asthma. I tried to hold my breath. Now a sound of breathing was coming up the stairs. Somebody else was breathing. The fat man was somewhere near me. I felt around me in the darkness until I finally found a weapon, a small statuette. I flung it in the direction of the breathing and grabbed for my flashlight. The beam showed the fat man in the center of the room struggling to get his gun out of his pocket. The statuette had missed. I could see the gun coming from his pocket, but I stood there, frozen. Then another voice spoke somewhere within the room, the most welcome sound I have ever heard. It was Arab.
Drop that gun. Keep that light in his eyes.
Don't worry, I will.
Now, just hold that pretty pose, Mr.
You'll never get to me. Oh, it sounds like a light.
Of course, darling. Now let's get out of here. Hurry. Darling, your timing was perfect. Now we've got to move, but fast. Hurry up we'll be followed.
Oh, I know this is only going to mean trouble, Arab. But what's the program?
First, we go to your room.
You mean we're finally going to be alone?
No, I don't think we'll be alone.
All right, let's have it.
It's like this. There's 16 girls living in a house on Q Street. We all have jobs in industries or the government. And we all like to chatter.
You mean the girls talk military secrets?
Oh, I don't mean any of the girls consciously tells anything. But they do give out little things that, added together, may mean a lot.
I'll turn in a report the first thing in the morning.
But, darling, you won't have time because, well, I've elected you as the bait.
Well, how do you mean?
All week I've been keeping a diary. And tonight at dinner I babbled about how I was going out with an army lieutenant. I told him I'd have to be ever so careful of what I said, for you had told me you were horrified by all this loose talk. And I said you'd written down all the bits and pieces I'd been telling you all week, and that you'd invited me to come up to check your notes tonight. I made sure that Renee Fielding and Mr. Jones overheard the address.
Well, meet the widow Blake. At times, I think you only married me because you thought I'd make a good-looking corpse. Well, while we're waiting here in my room for your Mr. Jones, where are those notes of yours?
Well, here's the one about Jane, who works in special service. After finishing breakfast, she suddenly pulled a word in Arabic on us.
Well, what's suspicious about that?
Jane has no interest in anything geographic. She happens to work in special service, and that's the branch that puts out guidebooks for soldiers.
Well, what else?
Ruby works for the Office of Petroleum Coordinator. She made an interesting remark the other morning about invasions taking a lot of oil.
Arabic oil. Go on.
Libby works in the State Department. Day before yesterday, she was asking Mrs. Fielding about what Darlon was like.
Darlon's more important in North Africa than Bataan or Laval.
Jean's boyfriend is a second lieutenant in the 1st Armored Division. Was last reported at Indio, California. Jean said the next letter she got from him would have an APO number.
Say, Indio's a desert training center.
Mary Arden says that she has to type requisitions for goggles and mosquito bars all day.
Goggles means sand or dust. Mosquito bars means tropical or semi-tropical countries. Put them together and they spell desert.
Ginger works for Transportation Corps, and she was talking about shipping locomotives for narrow-gauge railroads.
North Africa again.
But, Andy, what does all this add up to?
It adds up to the fact that the joint Allied operations against the enemy in North Africa is already underway, and that Jones and Mrs. Fielding know about it. Holy smokes! I'm going to call Colonel Parker. Oh, the line's dead. Why, the wire must have been cut.
Come here, Andy, quick.
What is it?
They're in the front yard. If you look closely, you can see the shadows of 2 men standing beneath that tree. They're here, Andy. Jones and someone else.
But it's impossible. Well, we can't be trapped right in the center of Washington.
Andy, we've got to make a break for it. I'll go first out the back door. I've got my gun. If anybody tries to stop me, I'm going to shoot.
If anybody's going to draw them off, I'm going to. Give me the gun.
No, darling. I'm the one who can shoot, so I'm going first. One of us has to get away, and this is the best chance.
Do you think...
Andy, if anything happens, I'm sorry I used to steal all the covers from you and use up all the bath towels after a shower. Goodbye, darling.
But wait a minute. Why, that little idiot. Why did she leave now? Arab! Arab! Where are you?
This is Jeffrey Barnes bringing down the curtain on the first act of tonight's Mole Mystery Theater play, and reminding you that even now, after 2 years of war, there are still a few people who think something like this.
Listen, we're winning the war. It'll be over in no time. What's the use of working yourself to death?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are some people like that. And yet no one can tell us when the war will be over, because no one knows. But everyone knows that we're now in a crucial moment of this war, and we must break every war production record to keep arms flowing to the front. In order to do this, hundreds of thousands of women are needed in war-useful work, because they are the only adequate source of labor to replace men who are entering the service. Women must work as men must fight. And since lack of experience is not a handicap, women can get war-useful jobs in transportation, communications, retail trades, and other necessary services. So, ladies, if you can spare the time for a part-time or full-time job, time to work along with millions of fine American men and women, go to your United States Employment Office and tell them that you are available. Your United States Employment Service can tell you where you are needed most. And now here's Jeffrey Barnes and Act Two of Death Talks Out of Turn.
Lieutenant Andy Blake and his enterprising and charming wife, Arabella, have become involved with a Nazi spy ring in wartime Washington. And as the second act of our play opens, Lieutenant Blake has come to report the emergency to his superior officer, Colonel Parker, who will take the steps necessary.
Colonel Parker, wake up! Colonel Parker!
Ed, what is it? Oh, Lieutenant Blake, come in.
It's that Q Street business I told you about, Colonel. My wife was right. They pieced together a lot of North African and invasion data, and
Keep your voice down, Lieutenant.
Well, sir, I think these people in the Q Street house have also got my wife. They kidnapped her, just now, in front of the place where I live.
Don't worry, Lieutenant. We'll have the house on Q Street in the bag in 10 minutes.
Yes, but...
I'll have 2 companies of guards turned out to search Washington and get orders through to watch all roads.
But I wanted to do...
I'll keep in touch with you, Lieutenant. The best thing for you to do now is to go home and try to get some sleep.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. But I couldn't get some sleep. I kept thinking that Arab might be merely a small huddled shape somewhere. I got into the car and drove back toward Q Street. Suddenly, a block away, my headlights gleamed on a small white sports shoe lying by the side of the road. It was Arab's. I stopped the car, leaped out, and bent over to pick it up. It was too late when I saw the club swinging from my head. Sometime later, I came to, lying in the back of a car with my arms and legs securely bound with rope. The car turned into a driveway, and someone pulled me out.
Well, Lieutenant Blake, you must have a hard head. I didn't expect you to be conscious so soon.
Where's my wife?
If you're quiet, you will see her in just a minute. Hold still, Lieutenant, while I untie your legs. If you will notice, Lieutenant Blake, you're now in a very lonely section along the Atlantic coast. The house here was once used by rum runners during Prohibition, but it has been well stocked with ammunition for just such emergencies as this. Come on, Lieutenant. Your legs are untied. We're going in.
Joey! Joey! Well, Chief, I see you got the little Boy Scout.
You may sit in that straight chair, Lieutenant. I think we will leave your hands tied. You've caused too much trouble. Joey, tie up his legs again.
Andy, are you all right?
Oh, nothing wrong but paralysis of the brain. That and the company we find ourselves in.
You are amusing, Lieutenant.
You're pretty killing yourself, Mrs. Fielding. But how are you and Jonesy and this mug going to get out of this? Our Army and Navy isn't asleep, you know.
Your defense command has no chance. Give us the German Army and the Navy and the Air Force, and we, the Gestapo, will rule the world.
Chief, it is late. We've got to get moving.
Lieutenant, you will see how well the Gestapo works. Our submarine is waiting off the coast. All I have to do is signal her, and we will be picked up. I'm so sorry to disappoint you, Lieutenant. I know you're thinking I will signal with a light, and one of your destroyers will see it. But you are wrong. Our signal light is an infrared ray. Can only be picked up by a photoelectric cell.
Andy, is there really one of our destroyers out there?
Of course there is, Mrs. Blake. I've seen one in the last few minutes. But it will do you no good. You Americans are too stupid.
So, you have the plans for our invasion of North Africa, Herr Jones, and now you're going to signal them to the commander of that submarine. But what's to prevent the submarine commander from taking all the credit himself, huh? All right. You work for Himmler. But who does the sub-commander work for?
Admiral Canaris of the German Naval Intelligence, of course.
But do you think that sub-commander and Admiral Canaris will give you a build-up? Do you know what's going to happen to you?
Why, no, of course not. What do you mean?
In a few minutes, the sub-commander will see you coming out in a rubber boat. He'll tell his men that there are Americans in the boat. 10 rounds of rapid fire. 10 rounds, Jonesy, and you'll be...
Stop it! Stop it, I tell you. We'll see who gets the credit. I won't give the plans to the sub-commander. I'll use the shortwave set.
But the destroyers can pick up that stuff.
A chance in 100. One destroyer cannot cover the entire shortwave band. We'll take a chance. Joey, get the code book in the lower right-hand door. Get paper and pencil. First sentence, Jones to Ulick. Second sentence, for Himmler only. Third sentence, 2 United States forces sail from East Coast ports of embarkation. Fourth sentence, objective North Africa, absolutely confirmed. Encode that, Joey, quickly. There will be more.
Okay, Chief.
There it is. Now give me the message, Joey.
Andy, why did you talk into using the short wave?
Well, with them using a shortwave radio, our men will be able to locate the target, this house, and start shooting. Any minute now. There it is! Come on, boys! Lay it into that! Watch for this one, Jonesy. Come on, boys! Right 1, double, down 5. 1, 2, 3, down!
Joey, Lenny, grab all the papers.
Hurry up! They've got their bracket now. No change, no change. Hurry up, Joey! Hold on to your hat, Arab, darling.
I'd rather hold your hand.
Oh, I wish I could think of something deathless to say.
I love you, Andy.
I love you.
That's deathless enough. Andy, wake up, darling. You've got to.
Oh, what happened? What am I doing here?
You threw a hand grenade at Jonesy after the explosion that wrecked the house.
Oh.
Just as he fired his .45 at you. And missed.
What about the grenade?
Didn't go off.
It didn't.
You aren't wounded, really. Only a little burned. It was the explosion of the house that got Jonesy.
Where's Rennie and the other guy?
They got away in the rowboat. Submarine must have picked them up.
And why didn't the grenade go off?
They don't go off unless you pull the pin, dear.
I never even fired a BB gun. How would I know you had to pull a pin?
Andy, you must have thrown it like a baseball. You hit him right in the head.
I did?
You can throw grenades that well, darling. We'll have some special ones made just for you. Without pins.
But I saw a flash, and there was an awful noise.
.45 makes an awful racket when it's shot off right in your face. You just got some powder burn.
What about the submarine?
I think our destroyer got it, Andy. It was out there putting over depth bombs while you were out. The noise just stopped this minute.
And we've got to get right back to Washington and make a report. To think this all started because a few people forgot and talked about their work. Oh, if they'd only kept their mouths shut, none of this would have happened, Arab. Nor could you have overheard any of it and got us mixed up in it.
Oh, Andy, darling, I won't ever try to stir things up again. From now on, I'll be quiet like a mouse.
Well, all I can say is, if you're going to be a mouse, darling, heaven help the cats.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Mole Mystery Theater play tonight has introduced us to a very lovable little lady who delights in solving problems.
As a matter of fact, she's right here, Mr. Barnes, and wants to tell our audience about another problem. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Arabella Blake.
Thank you, Dan. You know, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, after my experience in Washington, I did settle down. But later, when Andy went overseas, I became aware of the problem Mr. Seymour's referring to. And, well, I knew that when Andy heard about it, he'd think I was up to something. But I went out and got myself a job. And ladies, I didn't have any previous experience. Just that short while as a secretary in the Ordnance Department. But I had plenty of time and I guess a sort of appreciation for the privilege of being allowed to live while the momentous history of today is being made. You know, we women know how to work. All of us do. And oftentimes we can take over and do just as good a job as the men. And friends, the need for women and more useful work is urgent. So tonight, I want to ask each one of you ladies in the audience to consider the advantages of helping your country now, in this, the crisis of the war. At the same time, I want you to consider the extra income you'll have earned. Then, if you decide that you can take a war job, go immediately to your local United States Employment Office and tell them you're available. Ladies, our country's need for woman power is serious. Our country's need is now.
And now Jeffrey Barnes to tell you about next week's story.
Next week, we welcome to our Morley Mystery Theater two of the most unusual detectives you've ever met. Miss Rachel Murdoch, a delightful old lady of 70, and her Persian black cat, Samantha. Our story was written by D.B. Olson, and its title is The Cat Saw Murder. So, mystery fans, we invite you to be with us next week for that mystifying adventure thriller, The Cat Saw Murder.
CRESTA, BLANCA, Cresta, Blanca, Cresta Blanca.
HOJO Radio, where the classics come alive.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lockheed presents Mr. Herbert Marshall as the man called X.
Look to Lockheed for leadership. The men and women of Lockheed Aircraft present Herbert Marshall in The Man Called X, produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. The Man Called X. He is the man who crosses the ocean as readily as you or I cross town. He's the man who travels today as you and I will travel tomorrow. He is the man who fights today's war in his unique fashion, so that tomorrow's peace will make the world a neighborhood for all of us. He is the man called X. Tonight, Mr. X spins the globe and puts his finger on the Balkans, where he searches for an unknown but notorious international criminal. But right now, his mind is far from the troubled world, as he and his fiancée, Nancy Bessington, listen to Valse Bluette in the Gamut Music Shop on East 44th Street in New York City.
Oh, that's beautiful, Ken.
Then we'll take it, my dear.
Do you think they could play that for our wedding march, darling?
Well, it might be rather tough to waltz down the aisle to, and Mendelssohn and Wagner will probably turn over in their graves, but if you insist...
Have you decided to take it, sir?
Yes, will you wrap it, please?
Certainly, it'll just take a moment.
Ah, darling, do you realize how many things we have in common? Good music, good books, good... Ken, are you listening?
Petko.
What did you say, Ken?
Petko Todorovich.
Pet who? Ken, where are you going?
Nancy, that man just leaving the shop. Darn it. Now, which way did he go?
Ken, what under the sun are you...
Petko. I lost him in the crowd.
And just who is Petko, if you don't mind?
I haven't seen him since we were at school together in Switzerland.
School? Oh, an old friend.
A very close friend, Nancy.
Well, thank goodness. For a minute, I thought you were getting mixed up in one of those things again. still haven't told me how you got Petco's address.
From Jimmy Hale on the Globe. Come on, Petco, open up. I'd heard he was coming over here as representative of Tito's government.
Oh. Well, then this isn't just a social call after all.
Funny. Why, it's open. Petco, are you home or...
Ken in that chair.
Petco.
Look at him.
Yes, Nancy. Shot through the heart.
But Ken, why?
I don't know. But he was here on important business for his government.
And he must have been working when it happened. See, here's his typewriter. And, he was just writing a letter. It's to somebody named Anna. But it may give us some idea.
Anna?
You know her, Ken?
His wife, Nancy. Anna was in Switzerland the year I met Petco. She was very lovely.
Oh?
I was in love with her, too.
Oh.
But I left after that summer, and they were married a couple of years later. Oh, it'll be a terrible shock to her. They were devoted.
Well, what does the letter say, Ken?
Dearest Anna, you will never know the agonies I've suffered being away from you. And you will never know how I feel having to leave you again. But, my darling, day and night I dream of the time when we may be together once more. So bless you, and a million kisses from your loving Petco.
Well, I didn't know either of them, but it makes me feel terrible.
Nancy, you had the right hunch when I saw Petco leave the music shop. This is one of those things.
Mrs. Anna Todorovich, 1719 Tsar, Hospododitl Street, Sofia, Bulgaria.
Yes, Chief. That envelope, already addressed, lay beside the typewriter. They must have moved from Belgrade when Yugoslavia was overrun by the Nazis.
Find anything else, Ken?
The violin, Ken.
Yes, a violin. I didn't know he played. But here's the important thing, Chief. In the medicine cabinet, wrapped inside an ordinary gauze bandage roll, I found this. Here.
Microfilm. Let's see. Look at it through this glass, Ken.
I know. 3 million marks. Borrowed by the Reichsbank from the Belgrade State Bank. Anton Gubek, director.
Anton Gubek. Just a minute. Miller, Dufrovsky, Racek, Gubek. Well, I thought I saw that name on the list. Anton Gubek left New York on a plane this morning for Sofia, Bulgaria.
Oh? But why Sofia?
There's a branch of the Belgrade Bank there.
So that's why Petco was here. He must have had evidence that one of his fellow Yugoslavs was in secret collaboration with the Nazis. He traced him to New York and was about to expose him.
But Gubek got to him first.
Could be. Chief, do me a favor.
Well?
Keep this quiet until I have a chance to see Anna Todorovich and tell her about Petco.
Oh, but Ken, Anna is in Bulgaria.
Yes, my darling, Bulgaria.
Oh!
Landing at Sofia in 5 minutes. Sofia, sir. The plane continues on to Istanbul, Cairo, Ceylon, and Sydney, Australia. You may change for planes for Bucharest, Moscow, Arden. That's it. Back
there. I'm sorry, Anna. You and Petco must have been so happy together.
Oh, it's too happy. Oh, Ken, why? Why, Petco?
Later, Anna. We'll talk about that later.
But I must know. What did he say to you when you saw him?
Unfortunately, the only time I saw him was just a glimpse as he was leaving a music shop.
Oh.
By the way, I never knew Petco was a violinist.
Oh, he just played for his own amusement. He loved music. He loved everything beautiful. Oh.
No, Anna, dear, don't.
Don't. I'm all right now, Ken.
Anna, do you know a man named Anton Gubek?
Anton Gubek? No, Ken. Should I?
Not particularly. I have an idea he's not a very nice man.
But who is he, Ken?
The director of the Belgrade Bank. He has offices here in Sofia.
But, Ken, what has this to do with Petco?
That's exactly what I want to find out. From Mr. Gubek. My name's Thurston.
Well, what can I do for you?
Mr. Gubek, do you know a man named Petko Todorovich?
Todorovich? No, I'm afraid I don't.
Todorovich was found dead a few days ago in New York City.
So? What has that to do with me?
He was in possession of a photostatic record of dealings between this bank and the Reichsbank.
My dear man, what bank has not had dealings at one time or another with banks of other countries? After all, finance is international. I'm afraid I fail to understand the purpose of your visit.
Oh, I think you do understand. And is there any reason why you shouldn't tell me what you know?
I haven't said I know anything.
Well, in case you change your mind, you can reach me at the Grand Palace Hotel.
Why should I change my mind?
Because the police might be interested in knowing that you left New York on the day Todorovich was murdered. More coffee, Anna?
No, thank you, Ken.
Feel better now?
Much. Thanks to your dear self. Petko always said the best cure for grief was music, food, and laughter. You have given me all three tonight.
Anna, think a minute. Are you sure Petko never mentioned Anton Gubek?
I have been thinking ever since you spoke of him, but you see, I knew very little about Petko's business affairs. And since we came to Sofia, practically nothing at all.
What will you do now, Anna?
Go back to Belgrade? Or perhaps even to your America?
Gypsy music is the same all over the world, but this is one of the best groups I've heard in a long time.
Gancho's gypsy violins are very popular. Do you see how some of the players wander around among the tables?
I certainly do. You believe me, Anna, no gypsy wrote that song. And that arrangement.
So you do not care for my improvisations. Well, what else can one play in a cheese box like that?
Zay Gonzalesmith.
Hello, Mr. Thurston. I thought you'd never get here to Sofia, but it was worth waiting for. Will you introduce me?
Oh, yes, Madame Todorovich. Miss Zalesmith.
Hello.
Poet, scientist, musician, and admirer of beautiful women. I kiss your hand, madame.
Well.
You might as well sit down, Zagan. I suppose it's pointless for me to ask you how you happen to be in Sofia. Or is it just an unhappy coincidence?
Surely, Mr. Thurston, you didn't expect me to abandon you in such a crisis.
Well, why not? You've done it before.
Yes, but only for money. And in case of extreme necessity. And speaking of necessity, Mr. Thurston, there is a little item...
What, already?
Well, in addition to the normal traveling expenses, it was expensive to find out your destination. Taxi drivers, baggage masters...
Not a penny, Zagan. Our relationship at the present is purely social.
No, well, in that case, I guess I better get back to my wretched job.
Just a minute. What does Anton Gubek mean to you?
Oh, you are a very fine psychologist, Mr. Thurston. When you say Gubek, I think of money.
Go on, what else?
What else is there to think of, Mr. Thurston?
All right. What do you know about Gubek?
Well, I know he returned to Sofia on this afternoon's plane.
This afternoon?
Yes, I understand that Mr. Gubek was delayed in Cairo. As a matter of fact, on my way down to my miserable work this evening, I saw him enter his own house with his luggage.
Oh?
Oh, a perfect abomination of Rococo. It's over there in 47 Koshkovo Boulevard.
47 Koshkovo Boulevard.
Yes, and now, excuse me, Mr. X, and the beautiful Madame. I must return. It is my turn to play a solo. Au revoir, Madame. And if you should need further assistance, Mr. X, I have very flexible business hours.
Your friend Zegon is a comedian, Ken.
Oh, he's amusing enough, but he's got a price list for every laugh. Anna, I hate to bring such a charming evening to a close so quickly, but I want to talk to Gubek tonight. So if you don't mind, I'll see you home first.
Oh, don't bother, Ken. Just put me in a cab. After all, my house is a long way from Koshkovo Boulevard.
Yes? What do you want? Oh, officer. I came here to see Mr. Gubek.
There's Mr. Gubek in there, on the floor. Dead.
Wait a minute. This isn't Gubek?
No.
Well, who do you think it is?
This isn't the man I talked to at Gubeck's office yesterday afternoon.
I don't know anything about that. But this man is Anton Gubeck.
Then who was the man I talked to?
Just a moment. We will continue with Act Two of tonight's exploit of The Man Called X, starring Herbert Marshall. But first, a word from the men and women of Lockheed. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lockheed Constellation is the largest, fastest, highest-flying land transport in use today. It is capable of carrying 64 passengers, crew, and cargo across the nation in 7 hours. Its 4 engines provide a cruising speed of better than 300 miles an hour and a flight ceiling of well over 20,000 feet. Now, all these facts might indicate to you that while the Constellation is a fine airplane, its use will be confined to long flights between super airports. This isn't true, of course. For all its size and speed and power, the Constellation easily takes off and lands in any standard airport. Furthermore, even on short flights of 100 and 200 miles, it has been found to operate more efficiently and more economically than the ordinary 2-engine transport you fly in today. Thus, while the Constellation is serving the air forces now, tomorrow it may serve the airport in your town. As an airline local or as a transcontinental express, it will offer you swift, comfortable, safe transportation to neighboring cities or to lands beyond the horizon. Again, ladies and gentlemen, remember the name, the Lockheed Constellation, another example of Lockheed leadership. Now to return to tonight's exploit of Mr. X, whose search for the murderer of his friend Petko Todorovich has led him to Sofia, Bulgaria, only to discover that his only suspect, Anton Gubeck, dubious Yugoslav banker, also has been murdered. As we join him, he is in his hotel room with the ubiquitous Zagon Zelsmith.
Mr. X, I am humiliated at having to bring up such a personal subject, but...
You don't look very humiliated to me, Zagon.
Oh, well, I was so excited with my first solo appearance as a violinist that I neglected to conclude my negotiations with you at the cafe.
I don't recall any negotiations.
But, Mr. X, remember, I divulged invaluable information about the unfortunate Mr. Gubeck.
Oh, in that case, you owe me money. Your invaluable information ran me right up a blind alley.
Well, then, perhaps you'll be even more interested in Mr. Macek, president of the Macedonian National Bank. Such an interesting story and not too expensive. Or perhaps Mr. Dobrovici, chairman of the board of directors of the Sofia Exchange.
Now, wait a minute. What kind of double talk is this, Zagon?
No, not talk. Names and figures. All here. See? On this.
Microfilm. Zagon, where did you get this?
Oh, do not misunderstand me, Mr. X. I'm a man of scruples, but she was so beautiful, and I was only looking for her address.
Well, whose address? Looking where?
Why, your beautiful friend, of course, when her handbag lay on the table in the cafe.
Zagon, it's hard to believe there could be worse scoundrels than you, but there are, and not half so amusing.
Again, I am humiliated having to bring up a personal subject.
Well,
but...
perhaps these American dollars will save you from further embarrassment.
Oh, they do. I now recovered my dignity, and now as an honorable man, I must return this property to the beautiful lady.
That, Zagon, is a pleasure I shall reserve for myself. Good evening, Anna.
I wondered what happened to you. You didn't call.
Oh, just a comedy of errors and mistaken identity, that's all.
What?
Now, you see, Gubeck isn't Gubeck at all. Or wasn't, I should say.
What do you mean?
Oh, I could put it this way. Gubeck is dead. Long live Gubeck.
Gubeck is dead?
Yes, but the man I thought was Gubeck is still alive. And most important of all, whoever he is, he's the murderer of Petko. And he's here in Sofia.
Oh, how could he be? Petko was murdered in New York. And... Oh, but Ken, dear, let us not talk about this tonight.
All right. Shall we talk about a summer in Switzerland long ago?
Oh, yes.
About our scrambling for hours to get to the top of some place, only to ski down in a few seconds, laughing at time and space.
Ken, you remember too. We were above the world. Out of the world. Out...
Did this violin belong to Petko?
Yes, Ken. I told you he loved to play. Just for himself.
Well, then he must have picked up the one he had in New York at the music shop where I saw him.
I wondered why he did not take this one with him, but he left so suddenly. Oh, but Ken, let us turn back the clock again. And remember, you returned to America without my ever telling you.
Telling me what, Anna?
And it was you, Ken. You, darling. Kiss me. Like you once did when...
Anna, something I must tell you about.
Yes,
A letter for you from Petko. He wrote it just before he died.
You read it to me, Ken.
Dearest Anna, you will never know the agonies I've suffered being away from you.
Oh.
And you will never know how I feel having to leave you again. But my darling, day and night I dream of the time when we may be together once more. So, bless you, and a million kisses from your loving Petko.
Oh, poor Petko.
Now let me read it again. Dearest Anna, you will never know the agonies I've suffered being away from you, and you will never know how I feel.
Ken, why don't you go on?
Anna, the person who began this letter didn't finish it. Yes, Petko started typing, but see, beginning here, the touch is different, a much lighter touch. Somebody else finished the letter.
But who?
Somebody who didn't want to be exposed as an accomplice in an international blackmail racket. Someone connected with the music shop in New York City. Sounds incredible, doesn't it? But you did use the music shop, didn't you, Anna?
Is this some kind of fairy tale, Ken?
Petko got suspicious. He had evidence in microfilm. And when he traced you to that music shop in New York, he had a hard decision to make.
Go on, Ken.
And so, when he went back to the hotel, he sat down to write you a letter. What he intended to write was, "You'll never know how I feel, having discovered what you really are." So, Anna, you had to shoot him, complete the letter as your alibi, and get back here.
And by what magic do you know all this?
No magic at all. I believed this letter, until you yourself showed me how wrong I was.
I showed you?
You were the only one who knew I came here to see Gubek, and you made sure I wouldn't see him. Who was the man I talked to at Gubek's office, Anna?
Oh, you must be joking.
Unfortunately, this microfilm here is not very funny. Whoever this man is, he's dreamed up an insidious blackmail racket, using photostatic records of secret negotiations between the Nazis and bankers in some of the occupied countries. And he's making them pay off to save their necks from their own people as their countries are liberated.
You were speaking about me, Mr. X.
Oh, there you are. Whoever you are.
But not Gubek, eh? Schmutzige Schweinigel.
So, the trademark of a Nazi. And the portrait is complete, even to the gun in your hand.
This isn't a picture, Mr. X. It works.
I don't doubt it. I've seen enough evidence that it does. Your gun worked too, didn't it, Anna? No wonder Petko didn't look me up when he came to New York. He was ashamed to let me know that his devoted Anna had turned traitor. Not only to his great love for her, but to her people, to her country.
Stop it.
Why did you do it, Anna? Was it money? Was it because Petko lost everything he had when the Nazis moved in?
Stop!
I can imagine what Petko went through when he found you in New York. When he discovered what you were doing. What you become. He tried to tell you in a letter, but you never let him finish it.
Kill him, Willie! Don't let him talk anymore!
Yeah, now, stand aside, Anna. The lights. Who turned them off?
Willie!
I swear by the father of my father, I am innocent. I didn't do it.
Zagon, you.
Oh, it's you, Mr. Thurston? What big hands you have.
Can you find the light switch, Zagon?
Naturally, I just turned it off.
All right.
There.
And they've got away.
You mean the beautiful lady and my friend Gancho?
Gancho. So that's who he is.
No, he's a lot of people. But mostly he was Willy Heinecke, a very high man once, a useful aide to von Papen himself.
An unpleasant character. Well, Zegar, you saved my life by turning off that light.
Yes, and for no compensation either. But, alas, now I am in a pickle. Gancho and his gypsies gone, my violin gone. And without a violin, Zagon is without a tongue.
That'll be a new experience. But if it's a violin you want, there's one.
Oh, that's a treasure. When I played with the Amsterdam Symphony, I had a Guarnerius. On my last concert tour in Budapest, it was an Amati. And now... Oh, pfui, another one of Gancho's cheese boxes.
Wait, give me that fiddle. Why didn't I think of this before? That flat tone.
Oh, it may not be a Stradivarius, Mr. X, but that is vandalism.
Look, Zagon, the sound post.
It should be cheese.
Instead of a solid piece of hardwood, it's a hollow tube. In it, a roll of microfilm. So this is how your friend Gancho concealed his blackmailing evidence and shipped it abroad.
No wonder I could never play the Paganini cadenza from Mendelssohn concerto on a Gancho violin.
Zagon, you wanted the job. You have one.
I'm open to suggestion for a slight consideration, of course.
Do you know where Gancho has gone?
Not yet, Mr. X, but Zagon is not only a virtuoso, he's also a bloodhound. And so, Gancho, I risked my very life crossing the border to find you here in Yugoslavia.
And how did you know where we'd be, Zagon?
Do you not remember? You said the man who makes all your violins was here in this village.
You are a friend of Thurston's. Why did you follow us?
Oh, my dear lady, is that not obvious? You and Gancho are in a flourishing condition, so to speak, and you will be interested in the information about Mr. Thurston at a reasonable price, of course.
So, it would be much cheaper to liquidate you than to bargain with you.
Oh, but the information...
I'll give it to you for nothing.
Ken.
Oh, Mr. X, don't surprise me like that, and please, Mr. Thurston, just put down that gun. Surely you don't think that
Zagon, I know you too well. You always try to double your profit. So I followed you.
And now I suppose you will kill us.
I'm neither judge nor executioner, my dear. I'll leave that to the proper authorities. In this case, who will be more proper to judge you than your own people of Yugoslavia, whom you've betrayed?
What are they doing, Mr. X? I can't bear to look.
I don't wonder. You're lucky you're not against that wall yourself.
Please don't say things like that.
How different from a pleasant summer in Switzerland a long time ago. A fine friend and a beautiful girl. Seems like two different worlds, Zagar. One of those worlds has ended. A world of treachery and terror.
Before our star, Mr. Herbert Marshall, returns to tell you about next week's exploit of the man called X, here is an announcement from Lockheed. Ladies and gentlemen, when the war is over and final count is taken on those American industries contributing most to victory, the nation's airlines will stand near the top of the list. Here at home, the airlines have worked tirelessly, night and day, to speed essential passengers and cargo. Overseas, the nation's airline crews operating for the Air Transport Command have flown to almost every point on the globe. Many notables have been piloted by airline men on over-ocean trips. President Roosevelt, Generalissimo and Madame Chiang Kai-shek, Generals Marshall, Eisenhower, and Arnold, Admirals King and Leahy, Queen Wilhelmina, Secretary of War Stimson, and many others. Taken together, airline crews have crossed the oceans thousands of times and have flown many millions of miles to foreign shores. Yes, the airlines of America are doing a vital job in the war effort, a job that foretells a great age of flight that you and every American will enjoy in peacetime days to come. Now, Mr. Herbert Marshall.
Next week, I look forward to flying to the colorful West Indies, where a strange death occurs within the walls of an ancient church, where the only clue is a message that says nothing but okay. All leading to a climax involving a ton of high explosives. So join us, won't you, when next I return as the man called X.
Called X is presented by the Lockheed Aircraft Corporation. Tonight's exploit was written by Milton Merlin. Original music was composed and conducted by Felix Mills. The entire production was under the direction of Jack Johnstone. Mr. Marshall's appearance is through courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of the Technicolor picture Kismet. The men and women of Lockheed invite you to join Mr. X again next week. Same time, same station. John McIntyre speaking. This is the Blue Network.
Thanks for listening to HOJO Radio. We'll be back again very soon.